takes me down, and I bring it on myself. I fall back to you. You keep me alive. All I see is the dark, but when you come out, I see the stars. There are so many stars, but when you shine, you burn my heart and set me up in flames.
feeling some type of way. I wish I heard you say that maybe what I'm feeling isn't real and the ceiling is falling as my voice is calling for that feeling again. Watch me try to understand, but I can't possibly know. You make me feel alive. You make my lungs feel right.
Welcome to week 4 of Belong Arena Clash. My name is Stanley Greyheart Barker, and I am joined by the Kale to my Morgana. He's here to pass divine judgment on the 4 teams set before us today. It's Maritz Chronicler Musin.
I wouldn't have, recognised you as someone who was very dark and edgy, which is kind of how I regard Morgana to be, but thank you for calling me Kale.
You should have seen me in my teens.
No, I kind of want to.
Really
I'm also, unfortunately, banned tonight, so it's going to be a solo cast for you.
Yep, you're banned, and unfortunately so is Silas, so I won't be seeing either of those champs for our competitive action tonight. Morgana's still free to be on the Rift, as the changes to Herd haven't been deemed as significant as Kale's almost complete rework. So we're going to be able to see what patch 9.5 is bringing our way.
Indeed, and we talked a lot about patch 9.4 last week as well. The Conqueror changes, which were deemed important enough to be hotfixed, not only in between the 2 patches, but also now on 9.5, where it was taken down even further, because it was just still very strong. I think Vi is a notable change as well. Skarner buff, so we're seeing some change-ups there in the jungle. Might be something significant for tonight, but it remains to be seen if people feel like these changes are big enough for these champions to now finally be viable again.
Well, the 4 teams who will decide whether or not those changes are big enough to go out and play them are going to be the Nottingham Arrows, who are going to be taking on the Bristol Brawlers, followed in our second game of the night by the Norfolk Nighthawks playing against the Cardiff Saints. That's 1 match from Group 3, 1 match from Group 4, but first of all, let's see what the standings are like in Group 1, where at the moment, at the top of the table, we can see the Claymores. They've got themselves 2 wins from 2 games. The Spartans, they are a 2-1 record. Armada 1-1, as are the Invincibles, quite surprisingly. Not as invincible as perhaps everyone thought they might be. The Swarm, unfortunately, 0-3, still looking for their first win.
Yeah, we saw the Swarm, and they had a lot of spirits, but in terms of Team's engine all over level, it was a little bit lacking, and that really showcased their understanding. I think it's notable to say that the Spartans and the Invincibles were teams that we saw that were looking quite impressive. As you can saw there, they still didn't end up that high up the ladder, unlike the Pirates, as we talked about them a lot already. Number 2 rather, last season, number 1 for a lot of other seasons. The Harriers also doing great, and then we have the Steelers, the Lionhearts, and unfortunately the Enigmas trading behind there in Group 2.
Alrighty, we get to see Group 3 now. This is where our first 2 teams of the night are in action. We've got Nottingham Arrows, who currently, unfortunately, are yet to notch up a win. They're going to be facing the Bristol Brawlers, who are just ahead of them with 1 win and 1 loss. Topping this table, however, so far the Vikings, who are invincible at the moment, and the Hunters, the same can be said for them, and they've played 1 game less. Centurions, unfortunately, they're down the bottom of the group.
There's always got to be a worse team. Unfortunately, in this case, it's the Centurions, and yeah, as we said before, you're gonna have a lot of differences in terms of raw skill level between these teams, and the Centurions, unfortunately, on the receiving end of that skill difference. Vikings quite strong. I feel like the Brawlers and Arrows match can be really cool, because it can either put the Arrows still in contention for like a mid to high and ending, or we're going to see the Brawlers here take over and really solidify their mid-tier position here.
finally we get to have a little look at Group 4. This is going to be the group where our second match of the night comes from, in the Nighthawks versus the Saints, and they are the two teams that you see topping the table in the standings at the moment. 3 wins out of 3 for the Saints, 2 wins out of 2 for the Nighthawks. That unbeaten run must end for one of them tonight.
Yeah, and as we said before, again, either we're going to see these ranks be even more solidified, have one team pull further and further ahead, or these differences are going to be a little bit smaller, and that might make it a lot more interesting for us. If the Saints win there again, though, they're in firm control of that first spot there. But before we get to that second match, let's take a look at the first match here first. Bristol Brawlers versus Nottingham Arrows. On the side of the Bristol Brawlers, we have Noffusbot, Trade Me KFC, Meads, Lisa Kill, and X Driger with Flawless Blades as the sub.
Alrighty, over on the Nottingham Arrows, looking to take those brawlers down. It's going to be Tiro, Mighty Boosh, Fallen Rain, Robster 741, and Fright.
And the real question is, who do you think is going to win, Grey? Because we always have this nice little competition where one of us is trying to guess what's going to happen, and the other one, which is usually me, miserably fails.
Well, I'm going with the Brawlers in Game 1, purely based on what I've seen from sort of the table standings, because that's all I really have to go on at the moment. But I'm also gonna hold that a little bit until I see the drafts, because I'm always a fan of a good team composition, and 2 champions I won't be seeing are Nunu and Zoe. Yeah,
I'm expecting to also see things like, at least from the RSTC, Vayne, Nami, Z bands. We already see the Nunu being taken away. Because these are some picks that are very popular for the Nottingham Arrows, and there is the Vayne and a Zed or a Nami. I guess you're going to go for Zed, because Nami, even though, you know, we've seen that Mighty Boosh is very comfortable on that, but they instead opt to go for the Lucian man. That's why they're leaving open the Nami, which might then come through in somewhere throughout the rotation. Means that there's still a lot of power picks left available. I think the Zed is a particularly scary one. The Ivan is being played a lot by X Driger, maybe a Sejuani ban, something like the Yasuo can taken away with us, but instead they also throw a ban down to the bot lane. Resurrection use Fan of the Kaiser, and it's taken away from him here.
3 ADCs already removed from the champion pool for all of these players. So what we are going to see is the Galio locked in as the first pick. That, of course, is massively flexible. It's been picked up a lot in support recently, so it could be for Trade Me KFC, but at the same time, Let's Kill may well play it in the mid lane.
Yeah, Trade Me KFC is known to play it, so I wouldn't be too surprised if they go for that. But as you say, it's more about the flexibility to pick us. I do feel like one of the strongest counter picks is Nocturne, although I don't think that it's one of Rob's most played champions. I do feel like it would be exceptionally good in this situation, because every time the Galio wants to go for the hero's entrance, you just use the paranoia, and you just can't use his ability, which is like one of the main reasons to try and play it in the first place. Then also see Pyke and Aurelia getting picked up, and the Arrows coming out right from the woodworks here with some very strong picks that are a little bit susceptible to, like, if you fall behind on either of these 2 picks, they're not going to have that much efficiency. Both of them highly mobile, highly snowbally as well. So there's a lot of tools here for the Arrows to, once they get ahead, to just completely demolish their opponents. But with how the Brawlers comp is looking already, with the Sivir pickup as well, in terms of mid to late game, they're looking really strong, and the Sion pick further solidifies that.
Alrighty, we've still got a couple of flex picks out there. We've already talked about the Galio. Aurelia, of course, can be seen in multiple roles, so it's really hard to say exactly where that's going to be going just yet. Perhaps we'll be a little bit clearer as we see Pisces Ostrinus locking in his pick, which will be the final one for this round before we get to the next phase of bans. We've seen the ADC coming out of the side of the Brawlers. I would not be surprised at all to see the Arrows picking one up as well, given how many have already been banned away.
And it looks like the Xayah is getting off. It is going to get picked up. Something that we didn't really talk about that was also buffed in 9.5 is the Rakan. We saw Rakan and get a little bit of movement speak back on his W, which he really needed, let's be honest, because after nerfs, like, the only way that you still saw him was specifically in a Xayah Rakan lane. I feel like that buff might maybe push him back a little bit further into viability, and as I said previously, if he was played, it was always with a Xayah. So the Xayah pick also opens up the opportunity for the Rakan. Of course, it's the Pyke getting picked up. This case, that's probably not going to happen. But Xayah, safe AD carry, skills relatively well throughout the entirety of the game. Of course, doesn't skill as well as Sivir, but is very safe, which I think is going to be comfortable if you don't know which jungler you're going to be playing against.
Well, you know, you mentioned the junglers. There hasn't been anyone picked up for either team so far, unless there's something really crazy going on with the flex. And this has led to the Arrows taking Sejuani away from X-Drager. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, we are going to see the LeBlanc Bats that's completely targeted towards Pisces. Whether or not he may have that Aurelia still coming in for him is unknown, but it certainly looks like the Brawlers are banking on that not being the case. Jarvan taken away, so that's now 3 junglers targeted towards Xdraga, and Vigar, the final mid laner, removed from the game. And now we get to see just what our Arrow's going to show.
Yeah, Fighterman, they want to pick up a jungler here, I think. Giving over that top lane, either counter, mid or top, is going to be a lot more useful. But then the question is, what are you going to pick up at Graves? Got a free AD buff, and that might not seem like enough, but it's these little changes. I think it was free AD that kind of took him out of viability in the first place, so that little buff might be enough. But the Xin Zhao is always a scary opponent to face in the jungle, and free AD against the Halo Blade Xin Zhao might not really do enough.
It certainly might not, especially in the early game where Jhin can do so very much, constantly forcing pressure, whether that be in the opposition jungle or going into the lanes. Meanwhile, that Galio is all but confirmed now as support, as we see this Echo being locked in for Lessica.
Yeah, and the Echo allows them to have a little bit of a mid-game spike to go with the Xin Zhao, because if you just have the Sign, if you don't also go for like a scaling mid laner, then there's not that much to do for Xdraga on the Xin Zhao. With the Echo, you can roam reliably, you can try and get these picks, you can get these assassinations, and the Rise is very interesting here. Also a way to kind of counter the hero's entrance, so you match the global pressure, and I think it also gives the Nottingham Arrows so much needed late game, as I feel like if you go for an extended game against the Brawlers, if you don't have that Rise, you're just going to fall at one point or another. Grace skills well, but both him and Xayah aren't really frontline shredders. And then you stand against a Sign and a Galio, and the opposing team has a Sivir. Like late game, that's going to become really hard for you to deal with. So the Arrows getting themselves a little bit of a possibility to go scaling as well, and I feel like both these teams have fairly well rounded out team, because I feel like the Brawlers is very easy though in its execution. You know, throw parallel convergence, if you can hit it, it's great. You have the hero's entrance, Underhunt, and then the unstoppable onslaught from Sion. And on the other end, the Arrows need to be a little bit more careful with the Aurelia, with the Pike. They have a lot more damage, but they need to be able to find that in a team fight.
One of the main things I've noticed with teams recently, when you draft similar to how the Arrows have in this game, is that quite often, if you haven't got that pick potential inertly built into you, that a lot of teams seem to struggle to know when to get their team fight started up, how to get those picks. It feels like that's going to be so much easier for the Brawlers than for the Arrows. That does concern me, but I was really, really pleased to see that Rise pick up. Like you said before then, it felt like the late game was completely lacking, but suddenly you add Machine Gun Rise into the mix, and things could be, a little bit more different, and certainly put that Sivir on the back foot a touch more.
Yeah, and I think that Rise is also one of the the very few characters left in League where if you're truly good at him, he can carry like what feels like a 1v9 scenario where just get the Rise to it past his Archangel stuff, get him on the Zeref's Embrace, give him some extra mana, give him some health, and just let him be. And then in the late game, like the speed and like you say, the damage, the machine gun, rat-a-tat off, spell bolts being thrown at your opponent is just too much to handle. As we say, I feel like the composition from the Brawlers, it's going to be a lot of easier to execute, and I feel like they're going to feel more comfortable as well. Even if your Echoes in early game plan doesn't really work out, as long as Civic can scale up, you're still going to be fine in the late game. And I would have liked to see a Nocturne pick with the Rise. There's something somewhat similar. You can use Realm Mob to match Hero's Entrance. Do you feel still, even with the Rise pickup, like I'd love for the Arrows to go for a proactive game plan early on and try to get ahead? Because going into the mid to late game, you can, but I still feel like the comp from the Brawlers is going to do that a lot better than they will.
And that is why, Marrett, I'm sticking with my original comments. I'm going with the Brawlers to take this game against the Arrows. Whether or not they take the series, that's still to be seen. But game one, I'm firmly in the Brawlers camp.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I think that this match is also going to be very important as how we're going to see these two teams struggle. Maybe the Arrows get ahead early, but then once they've done that, they fail to actually close the deal, which is something that we've seen happen, that can happen. Like actually pulling the trigger once you're ahead can be quite difficult. And on the other hand, maybe we're going to see them do that very well, or not do the early game very well, and then falter afterwards. So there's a lot of ways in which you can look at this draft and say, okay, so based on how game number one goes, we have a couple of comfort picks for some other carries. We're going to try and see whether or not we can work this out. If it does work, then good. If not, we have a very clear indication of what we need to switch up. So in this best of three, I agree with you. I think it's really hard to call. I got to go with you on the Brawlers here, though. It does feel like with that team composition, like with how it is currently set up, that in a default game state they're gonna kind of get ahead, and I feel like it's like unless it's a huge snowball, which we've seen before at Long Arena Clash, can definitely happen. But if it's not a huge snowball, then the Brawlers just seem like they're in a prime position to take it here.
Yeah, really will be tough for the Arrows, especially considering they haven't managed to pick up a win so far in Arena Clash. Here at Arena Clash, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen this Jin Zhao multiple times, audaciously charging into the enemies. It's going to be a little bit tricky for him to make that early impact early on. He's got the Runic Prison that he'll be diving into. He's obviously got the feathers, which are going to be pulled back, stunning him into place. Aurelia's there with a ready-made stun as well. The dives are maybe not going to come quite as thick and fast as they might have against other champions.
Yeah, I feel like the bot lane, there's still a lot of room for possibility, especially pre-6, as there's no Featherstorm available, so a lot of the survivability that you have on the Xayah is not really there yet. And Galio, of course, has a lot of CC, the Justice Punch, the Taunt. Like, there's a lot of ways for him to make sure that everyone who is in place stays in place. And then combined with the knockup from the Free Tail and Strike and the Healer Blade Xin Zhao. I still feel like it's going to be mainly the mid lane and possibly the mid lane. But mid lane already feels a little bit more dicey to me, because Echo, of course, Parallel Converge is quite hard to hit. If he pokes down Pisces, though, then they might be able to pull that off. And that is the real question here for me. What is Xdraga going to do? Is he going to be able to hold that early game prowess from the Nottingham Arrows, or are they going to be able to find these plays that I think they need to find? Like, for example, in the top lane is Mighty Booch. We haven't really talked about him yet, but that Pyke is a pick that's really strong when he gets to roam. You know, is the Sivir Galio lane going to be too oppressive for Vitamin to be able to stay in that lane solo and then allow Mighty Booch to roam? All these questions need to be answered here, and looks like we're in for the first game of the evening here, Greyheart.
Yep, here we are onto the Rift. We're a minute in. The minions are starting to spawn, and already we can see that the teams are setting themselves up defensively. Graves looks like he's setting himself up for a red buff start, certainly on the top side of his jungle, whereas Jin Zhao hovering around and with both Sivir and Galio waiting by the red buff. It feels like these two teams might well start on opposite sides of the jungle. There is the possibility for a little bit of vertical jungling, of course.
Yeah, we don't see any vision thus far, besides the usual pixel brush wards. No one wants to really contest that. And once either Robster or Xdraga get spotted, we might indeed see that vertical jungle. Whether or not that's actually going to be the case remains to be seen, also depends on the priority of the lanes. We now see Vitamin and Boosh showing up in the bot lane, and the question mark ping tells them what we already know, which is that Xdraga is starting on his own red buff, as is his opponent. And looking at that pathing, is it going to be a level 2 cheese gank, or is he just going to go straight for the vertical jungle? Looks like we already see the Bone Skewer hit there, but there's Xin Zhao.
Alright, Audacious Charge coming in, the flash and the taunt not quite going to connect. Meanwhile, the dash forward from Xdraga, that was not a flash, that was his Audacious Charge going forward, but he takes quite a lot of health. He manages to burn the flash out of both of the bot lane.
And that is quite good. In terms of Mighty Boosh, it's not as relevant as Pyke is, of course, an incredibly mobile support. Trevenant KC does lose a lot of initiation power on the back of that, though. Might open him up to a little bit of a rest, but for now, quite a nice start. Xdraga, like you said, not having to use his own flash, forcing out 2. And a 1-for-2 flash trade is great. Is it going to be enough remains to be seen, as we see Tiro here try and trade with Nova's bot up in top lane.
Yeah, so far having quite a rough time as well, having to pop those potions to stay alive. Meanwhile, Jin Zhao opting not to go for the vertical jungle route, not going up to the blue buff, and I believe he's going to get to his blue buff, only to find Graves has taken it away. Meanwhile, the knockup is going to land onto Taro. He is going lower and lower, still hasn't burned that flash, but he's getting less and less safe up in that top lane all the time.
And I think that we've just seen Robster take away the blue buff from his opponents, as it looks like it will be taken. Now we might have a little bit of a scuffle here as Lee Skill is moving towards him. Robster's still alive.
Twitter promised us a rumble in the jungle, and it looks like we're going to get it. Xdraga going on towards Robster there, taking a lot of health away, still not burning his flash, but in the end, everyone steps away. No first blood just yet.
And it is a 2 scuttle start here for Xdraga, but Robster, I feel like, still gets the better end of that trade by picking up 1 blue buff already and about to pick up a second as well as he moves into his own jungle. And you notice that Robster was also expecting vertical jungle coming out from Xdraga, because I don't think that they were really suspecting what was happening here. There wasn't really a priority. We saw that Lysika was able to rotate first, but maybe a little bit of an untimely rotation from Xdraga. They're also greedy from Robster to go for the scuttle. The fact that he doesn't have to pay for his life there is really good for the Nottingham Arrows.
As a jungler, it feels like obviously the best thing is you can get that, that classic Jankos First Blood King moment. However, your next best thing surely is going to be 3-buffing the opposition jungler, and that is exactly what Robster finds himself in the position of doing. Xtreg does get the consolation because he gets the third best thing, the double Scuttle Crab, all that extra experience, but at the end of the day it does feel like Robster has come slightly the better off these original jungle clears, as both the junglers are going to look to complete some items.
Yeah, and the first back skirmish, as you said, is getting picked up. Nice bone skewer there, but no real follow-up. The taunt, the Justice Punch, and Fighterman, like we said, does have the heal available, but no flash. Gets them a little bit low there, but they don't really want to follow up, and I feel like if they pulled the trigger there, the Brawlers might have been able to get more out of the play.
Yeah, no flash on either of either the ADC or the support of the arrows, and with the Ignite still up on trade with KFC, there is a question as to whether that could have been First Blood. Meanwhile, we're going to see Laser Kill. He is low on mana, running away from this rise. Here comes Xtrigger, dashing forward, looking for the 3-times strike, instead not going to get it, but the flash is burned on the rise.
And something that's interesting, instead of the phase rush, which we usually see, we have Aftershock Rise being used here, which means that I feel like his early game is going to really benefit from it. Like, he's going to be able to scale into the mid to late game much better, but if you're really adept at Rise in the late game, phase rush allows you to get away with so much more than the Aftershock is going to do, because you're going to be able to sidestep so many more skill shots. So this also signals to me that Pisces is saying, I just want to get there, and then I'm going to take a little bit of a hit in terms of flexibility with what I can do with just surefire extra resistances that I'm going to be using every time that I hit a root prison.
Another champion we quite often see running in the phase rush is the Xin Zhao, and it's going to be the Hail of Blades instead, coming through from Xtrigger here, looking for that earlier sort of big damage spike coming out, but it's not going to be Xtrigger up in the top lane. Instead, it's Robster joining up with Terror, trying to get some damage down onto Novice. He has got his flash available, so it does feel like this is not going to be the death of him, but he is going exceptionally low. Now looking for the knockup, maybe going to be able to turn someone into a kill, as Robster zones Sion away from turret, does not burn the flash though. Meanwhile, here comes Xtrigger. The flashes are not back up on these bot laners, and we're going to see the root landing nicely from the Xayah, keeping herself safe as Pyke just goes invisible, does whatever the hell he wants.
And thus far, it is a very even game here. We do see that Novice Bot is having a great game here on the Sion, being able to consistently win the trades and outfarm his opponent. There is a teleport advantage available though for Terror, and the might want to be able to set up a play on that Mountain Dragon, because if you can get that over on the side of the Nottingham Arrows, it's going to allow you to do so much more. Thus far, we actually see that in the mid-game, Pisces on the rise is scaling incredibly comfortably here, almost 15 CS up, able to just easily pick up all the farm that he wants to, and now the taunt does hit, but I feel like Trademark bait of more than he could chew, and he just gets blown up out of nowhere there.
First Blood goes over to the Mighty Boosh, getting all of that extra gold into the Pyke's pocket. We see the ultimate being cast by Echo, but he's not able to catch back onto the Rise, who he had burned very, very low.
And it feels like you can hear the confusion in my voice, because it feels like such an over miscommunication, because we see Resurrection has the flash, has the heal available as well, and I gotta imagine that they were really on the same page there, because it feels like Trade Me was very aggressively moving in there, and then Resurrection was just having none of it, wasn't going for the autos, wasn't going for anything. So a little bit of a miscommunication leading to an early advantage for the Nottingham Arrows. We said if they get that advantage, it's going to be quite good for them, but I feel like one of the places where they wanted disadvantage is in the top lane, and Taro is not having a great game against Novice Bot thus far.
Certainly not. Down 21 CS and constantly being getting caught by these knockups. Now down below half health. Trying to use the stun, but the Unstoppable Onslaught is going to get through that. The flash being burned by Taro. The flash available by Novice Bot. He doesn't even need it to pick up a solo kill in the top lane.
And those are going to spell some very unfortunate tides there for Taro. Of course, Aurelia can always find back her fitting in a game. She can pick up a double kill her there, which is, Aurelia's kind of known to do once you get the resets in a team fight. But thus far for the top lane, it's not looking good, but everywhere else the Nottingham Arrows are quite happy, I'd say. Bot lane is at CS disadvantage, but you're going to take that kill regardless. The fact that Sun Mighty Boosh is good as well, as he's one of the players that you kind of want to snowball, and the Mountain Drake getting picked up here in combination with the scaling that you have with the Graves and the Rise is going to mean that the Nottingham Arrows are still fairly comfortable. I would like them to up the tempo though, but this free Mountain Dragon here is quite good. I say that, but then I think that Robster started it, then decided that he didn't want to go for it anymore, and here's another gank.
Flash forward from Laser Kill, and that's going to be enough to pick up the kill on the Rise. Xtrigger arrives, does his bit to gain the support, but at the end of the day, that was all about the Echo, straight up outplaying the Rise.
And with that Pisces, he was looking really comfortable in the lane. Now all of a sudden his CS advantage has shrunk. He does not have a sizable gold lead anymore after the kill was picked up by the Echo there as well. And Novizbot with the Ninja Type is going to even further oppress Taro there up in the top lane.
Going back to that first blood that we had in the bot lane, I really felt quite sorry for Trade Me KFC. It was that classic solo queue mentality where the Bone Skewer lands from Mighty Bush and Trade Me KFC goes, you know what, I'm not just going to step away and flash out of this. Instead, I'm going in, I'm committing my taunt to it. And Sivir was there going, what? No, don't do this. And so in the end, you know, things worked out really nicely for the Arrows. That might also be the case now as Mighty Bush looking to try and get some kind of pick. He knows he's got Robster present, but in the end, it's just going to be the Arrows securing themselves a little bit more vision. Meanwhile, the kill lead's still over with the Bristol Brawlers, and they have now got the gold lead as well. Yeah,
and it's really due to these big CS advantages that they're able to build up. So in terms of laning, the only real difference that we see, or the advantage for the Arrows now, is in the jungle. Piskers, once he can remain in lane, is also doing rather comfortable, but Xdraiger knows that. Look at his positioning, looking for another mid lane gank there. If the parallel converts it, there's just nothing that Piskers can do. He's not running clans, he's just using the teleport, which is quite nice, but situations like this does mean that he can get punished rather effectively. And here we see a 2v2 happening in the mid lane.
It's going to be the audacious charge back onto Xdraiger, from Xdraiger back onto Robster. Now we've got ourselves the 3 vs 3 as the slam is going to come in from the Galio. The damage is absolutely massive from Robster as he manages to pick up 1 kill. It's been traded over though as Echo managed to take down the Rise, but the ultimate being used by Pyke, taking down the Galio. Sivir comes in for the cleanup squad. At the end of the day, it is a 2 for 2. I don't know who this favours more.
Based on the kill distribution, I want to say the Brawlers, just on the fact that Resurrection is able to pick up a kill there. Nice play there coming out there from Mighty Bush. He is 2-1 now, has picked up the Serrated Dirk. Is there going to be enough for him to consistently snowball? Because it shows that Fighterman is, you know, with the roams, is having a tough time in the lane on his own. Lee Skill has no mana, needs to be careful here, but Robster does not have the damage yet to really burst him down aggressively. And Robster is also one of the people who, before Piskers becomes relevant, and with Taro in the state that he is right now, he needs to be the one who makes these plays, who pushes his advantage, because he is quite far ahead of Xdraiger, and that's only going to get better and better as the game progresses. So there are some opportunities here for the Arrows.
We talked a lot earlier on about what Jin Zhao could do in the early game, but Robster has been massively proactive, finding himself 1-0-1 on this Graves pick, managing to impact pretty much all of the lanes. That's not to say Xdraiger hasn't been able to do that, but certainly at the moment, the Graves looking like it packs quite a punch.
Yeah, and Mighty Bush and Trade Me. Like, the AD carries really don't want anything to do with it, but these two supports are just constantly mashing their head against each other, trying to see who wins.
You can't beat a bit of supportive combat.
Yeah. You know, it spices up the game. Mighty Bush doing what I love on Pyke, roaming to the mid lane once again, playing against a good Pyke, like you're playing against 2 junglers, and that's not a very fun, enjoyable experience rather for the mid lane. At least Skill able to just ward him off though, play safe. And the Proto Belt is finished on him now, meaning he will have a lot of survivability. The Essence Reaver first coming out here from Resurrection, as opposed to, you know, the Infinity Edge that we usually see.
Alright, so what's that going to mean for Sivir and her power spike?
I feel like it's going to make it more easy for you to just reliably, relentlessly push. She will be able to use more of the skills, you know, with the mana that she gets back from the Essence Reaver, as we see Parallel Converge being procced there. And now I'm wondering whether or not the constant push here is going to be matched appropriately, considering the fact that Resurrection with that is going to be doing a little bit less damage in teamfight in terms of crits, because it's really the crits that are going to make Sivir such a nuisance to deal with, as we keep seeing Taro lose and lose and lose these trades up in the top lane.
You think Sivir is a nuisance? No one told Taro about this Scion, and right now Novizbot is absolutely tearing it up in the top lane. He's got himself a 20 CS lead, he's got himself the solo kill and an assist on top of that, and right now there is absolutely nothing this Aurelia can do to deal with him. Aurelia surely is going to have to look for picks onto other champions later, because this Scion is not dying anytime soon.
He is not. There's still a sizable gold lead here for the Arrows, but they're not really setting the pace of the game, and that's what kind of scares me, because I do feel like they need to be the one making the shots, because if not, coming into this position, coming into this later mid-game team fight, it's going to be so hard for the Arrows to execute the comp properly. And with Piskers in the state it is right now, I do feel like it's still the Brawler's favourite, because Piskers is really the one person that relies on. Like, Robster is going to do a good effort as well, is going to put the work in. But if Piskis doesn't finish those items, if he doesn't get ahead, if he doesn't get to that point where he actually is that late game threat, it's just going to be so hard for him to really do anything. And then Desire, she's doing okay, but she's still 15 CS behind. Civ is a kill up on her, so that's not looking too great. Top lane, we don't even need to talk about anymore because Novasbot is just having a field day here on his side, and the jungle difference is there. It's 22 CS up here for Robster, but he's not that fat that you're going to say, okay, that Graves is just going to hard carry this game.
Alright, it's going to be very, very tough for the Arrows then as they find themselves perhaps losing the scaling battle. We have just had the turret plating falling off, and now we are going to see a little bit of damage.
Aftershock Rise, look at that.
Lezikill, he's absolutely having the time of his life putting down the damage. Not quite managing to secure the kill because here comes the Galio getting the double knocker, but now he finds himself in the middle of 3 members of Nottingham Arrows. The teleport comes in, but it is too little too late. Graves takes the kill despite the ultimate coming in from Mighty Boosh, and here comes the Scion. I said it was too late, but it may not be because this Scion wants to play, but you know what, the Arrows say, ha, no, we don't fancy a play date today, guys. Let's get out of here, and Aurelia finally gets a bit of time to push up top lane.
Really nice flash there from Mighty Boosh. Feel like that really saved that. If that Decimating Smash would have hit on him, I feel like the Brawlers would still have had an opportunity to go in there, try and go for a follow-up play, but with him dodging that, there's just no real opportunity for him there. So a little bit of an overcommittal. I feel like it was very weird. I felt like Lisa, we need to see the replay there, I guess, to hash that out, but I feel like Lisa was just going to be able to just get out of there, and then instead said, no, I'm going to pop my ultimate, I'm going to try and see whether we can make something work in combination with the hero's entrance. And that was a little bit overzealous from them, leading to a result where the Mountain Dragon gets picked up. Like you said, all of a sudden there's some room in the top lane for Taro, as finally Novasbot isn't there to relentlessly badger him. And now things are looking up for Nottingham Arrows.
So 15 minutes in and we finally get our first real objective of the game with that Mountain Dragon going into the pocket of the Nottingham Arrows, who got themselves the kill as well. They've basically got themselves a 1,500 gold lead more or less on the back of that series of plays. Definitely an advantage for them as we see this Infinity Edge is completed on Desire, combating the Essence Reaver that Civ has picked up. Fairly level CS between the two ADCs. It's just that kill that's been picked up by Civ throwing things slightly in her advantage. She's got those boots of Berserker Greaves.
There you go.
Boots of Berserker Greaves. They've been completed by Civ.
The problem, of course, is that just as we get into the mid to late game, Civ is just going to skill a lot better, as a Boomerang Blade and a Ricochet are going to do absolute absurd amount of damage. And it's also on that note that Fighterman with Desire needs to make his mid-game felt, as I feel like the Feather Storm specifically is just such an incredible tool in these mid to late game team fights, because if you're just going to keep playing this game as slow as you currently are, even with the Rise, even with the Grace, I feel like it's going to be a really rough go. The Mountain Dragon does help with that a lot. Mighty Boosh also constantly looking for these roams. We see Robster showing up in the top lane. I don't even know why he's visiting Novasbot, because I think that even with 2 of them, they're just not going to be able to chew through him whatsoever. Already is the Bramblefest, the Cinder, the Balmy Cinder, and the Ninja Tarbis, and combined with the shield, it's just impossible to get through him.
One of the things that I do find encouraging for the Arrows is the fact that during Champ Select we were talking about the fact that they were going to struggle slightly with the lack of pick composition that they had, but actually over the last couple of plays they've showed themselves able to turn these small lane advantages into a nice pickup. Rise especially stepping forward, getting that Rune Prison, and somehow this Aftershock Rise doing more damage than it has any right to at a place where all it's got is a last chapter and a tier.
Yeah, but the tankiness was incredible as well, because we're already at the point where Lisa Kill, you saw there, if Aftershock is active on Rise, there's just nothing that Lisa can do. He's trying to get through that, trying to chew through those resistances, but already with the Merc Threats combined with, as you say, the Aftershock, it's just so hard to get through Rise, and that does spell some good news for the Nottingham Arrows. And I feel like the next Dragon is going to be a vital objective, maybe a Rift Herald fight as well. But without that bot lane, I don't think that the Arrows actually want to fight, as Mighty Boosh takes some damage from the Windsor Warder. Not sure whether or not that's something that they actually want to go for. We see the Underhunt being used as Robster was spotted, and unfortunately there's no Dragon available right now.
Alrighty, so Graves comes down and all he takes is Winds of War to the face for his troubles. The ganking side of things has definitely slowed down a little bit. This has allowed Graves to increase his gold lead. He's now got a 500 bounty on his head, because not only is he 2-0-1, but he is 30 CS up in terms of the minions, the creep scores in his jungle, and he's having an absolutely fine time power farming. But the question is he going to be able to impact the late game with this champion? It's someone who's been out of the meta for a while. It's only had the smallest of changes coming into patch 9.5, and we're still to see what the full power of the readily unleashed Graves is.
Yeah, of course, Graves' late game was never really the problem, and he seems to be able to hold himself in the early game quite well as we're about to get into the mid game here. Paralocal Thirds getting used, and there's another gang coming out from Xdraiga towards the mid, but in the end, they decide, Piskis still has Flash. Has the Aftershock, is it going to be enough? Yes or no? We're about to see.
Alright, Piskis finding himself lower, uses that Flash, has the Aftershock available. In the end, he does drop down, courtesy of the Ignite, and it's going to be using that Chrono Break that gets Leatherkill out to safety, having picked up the kill. Nothing Robster could do to stop that one.
Yeah, Lich Bane about ready on Lees, and I think with that kill, he's going to be able to actually pick it up, and Piskis... Aftershock is very nice when it's just Echo hammering away at you, but when you also have an angry Zinza on you, it's not that great. Mighty Bush taking a very, very liberal pathing there, but does not get punished. Fortunately for him, I felt like if a Justice Punch hit him there mid-dash, would have been in a very bad spot. Instead, with the loss of mid-priority, this next Dragon can't be really set up, and I do feel like what we see in terms of macro as well is... a little bit less focused on the bigger picture and more about what can we do right now. And now we see some moves towards the Dragon, but the vision setup from both teams is fairly minimal as well.
Alright, we saw there just how much the Arrows didn't want to give away the first turret blood, and that was the teleport being used, but this means we get ourselves a 2v2. Yet again, the junglers and the mid laners duking out. Galio comes in, managed to get the knock-up. It's going to be Xdraiga getting his first kill of the game, taking down the Rise. The Aftershock is not enough to save him. Flash away from the Graves to keep himself safe, but here comes the Pike. He used that death from below, and he's trying to do everything he possibly can, but with that execute damage already gone, can they get a kill? The answer, my friend, is absolutely yes, because Graves dashes in. He even saves the collateral damage. He's got it available. He used it to pick up the double kill, and that is going to be a lovely turnaround from the Arrows.
Indeed, and I felt like with the Hero's entrance, this was just doomed for the Arrows. Nothing for them to really do. But now they're going to be picking up a second Mountain Drake on the back of that. And it's, again, Trade Me, who is not looking as comfortable as I'd expected here on the Galio, overextending a little bit, and Xdraiga also getting picked up once again here. And now all of a sudden, second Mountain Drake in. 4-0 Robster. It's looking really good here for the Nottingham Arrows, even with the fact that Novice Bot is incredibly scary, and I think that once they're actually going to get into team fights, we might see the tables turn here, as the Phantom Dancer was just picked up there for Resurrection, who has not really been in any fight. So what I'd love to see from the Arrows here is just don't team fight. Like these little skirmishes, as you say, they execute so well, they're always able to turn them around, even when it looks like their opponent gets the better hand of them. But if they actually set up 5v5 team fights, I'm still quite scared for them. 21
minutes in, it feels like Macro has arrived at the Belong Arena Clash here in Week 4, because both of these teams are going to have to find the right way to execute their combo. Meanwhile, speaking of the execute, here goes Leatherkill yet again, dashing in, finding himself a Rune Prison to the face, managing to save his ultimate though, and that's something that Piskis does not have, so he's not going to be able to heal up that health that he's just lost. If we see Leatherkill going in just a couple of moments when his Ignite is back up, that could mean certain death for the Rise.
Yeah, using the Zeref's Embrace shield there was a little bit overzealous. Felt like maybe he thought that Lisa wanted to go for a flash in with the Ignite as well. Using that preemptively means that he will actually be susceptible to a Ignite all-in at a later point in time. And with how strong they're doing at the moment, the mid lane can feel fairly comfortable. Here's another engagement though.
It's going to be a taunt landing onto both the bot lane on Nottingham Arrows. The knock is going to be there forcing the flash, but that's the execute damage coming out of Mighty Boosh. Yet again, managing to pick something up for himself. Resurrection getting his first kill, follows it up with a second onto the Xayah, and that just went from bad to worse for the Nottingham Arrows.
Yeah, Resurrection there. I still have Flash, I have Heal. I was not targeted whatsoever in this fight. Just calmly walks up to everyone and hits them with auto attacks. Is he ever going to
use his heal to save his support?
I don't think he needs to, because he says, you know, I can use that heal for myself. I'm severe. I'm 3-0 at the moment. I'm having a very good time. In 30 CS up as well. Robson now moving toward the subside, and now we're going to see whether or not they didn't actually tailwind, but the first turret does go down.
The Vanguard's edge thrown out. The unstoppable onslaught is used and channeled by Novice Bot, still trying to get himself to safety. The collateral damage is still up. There is the potential for the kill for Graves. In the end, he's not going to get it. Did you see how little damage that collateral damage did to the Scion?
Yeah, Scion pops a shield, says, you know, have you seen my build? Rob's there, because it's all nice and dandy that you're trying to visit top lane, but you lose the mid turret, you're not able to pick up anything, because unfortunately it's 23 minutes and Rift Herald is long gone from the field. And
no Shelly, that's sad.
Yeah, no Shelly being picked up by anyone. Shelly feels neglected, sad, and left out this game. And the same can be said for Taro, because every time that we see Robster do actually go to the top lane, it doesn't really lead to anything either. As we see I think what's going to be a ZZ Rod support here from Novice Bot, and I can't blame them. You want to kind of there's always the threat when you play against the Arrows right here that you're going to face off against Piskers, who will have a good lane matchup against you, have the teleport as well. And then they put Turo on the other side lane with the ZZ Rods. That's going to become a whole lot harder.
So about 5 minutes ago, I was getting ready to ask you the question of whether Mighty Boosh was becoming slightly irrelevant on this pipe, given the fact that he hadn't really got any items, hadn't got himself much more than 1 kill, but all of a sudden he's got himself 2 kills since then, the execute damage is improving, the Dust Blade is there, and it feels like he's still going to be able to do bits for his team.
Yeah, but look at the other end. Like, a Pyke that's getting slightly fed is good, yeah, the Dust Blade is nice, but on the other end, it's a Sivir with 3 kills, it's a Echo, who, as we see here, is not very, you know,
an Echo
prone to miss. Yeah, well, it's, sorry, yeah, my bad. 4-0, and due to the CC, Rama does not come through. And I said, you know, maybe that Piskers has a nice matchup here, but even just the unstoppable onslaught is enough, and it feels like Nottingham Arrows are just kind of crumbling under the pressure here, and it's who the kills are on the opposing sides. If those kills that we see here on Mighty Boosh, that we see, I mean, Robster they're fine on, but if those kills are on Piskers instead, this will be looking a lot better. Instead, there's some kills on Nofusbot, like all of which he's just got on in his own, which is quite insane when you think about it, because he's playing Sign. It's not like he's playing a carry top lane. It picks up a couple of solo kills. Done incredibly well, but it's these mid laners and these 80 carries on the side of Bristol Brawlers, Lisa Kill and Resurrection, that are just going to become such an incredible threat. And I don't know how you're going to deal with it as the Arrows, as I said before. I feel like at this point, as the Brawlers, you just play at the game fairly easily, right? Like, Novice bots shouldn't die here, but I don't think that. Look at the pitiful damage that we see here coming out of Taro. And that's what happens if you're Aurelia playing against a Sign that is just able to freely scale against you. A turret is still up as well.
Oh, but Mighty Boosh has arrived. He's looking for potential execute damage. Gallo is going to unleash his ultimate, but it's not going to be enough to stop the Scion from finally getting shut down. A decent amount of gold going into Mighty Boosh's pocket as he throws some gold the way of one of his teammates as well. It did look like we were going to see Novice Bot just walk away again, but this time maybe slightly overestimating his tankiness.
And these two teams keeping it exciting. It's still back and forth. As I'd said before, I feel like just the sheer ease with which you execute his team composition from the Brawlers means that once Novasbot does stop split pushing off on his own there, once he actually puts down his easy rods and starts pushing with the rest of his team, he's going to be in a prime position to help them carry. And just these team fights are going to be such a nuisance here. You can't get to the Sivir in the back line. Besides, maybe if Mighty Boosh finds a Bone Skewer and if, like, Taro can dive on top of it, but I don't see a scenario in which that happens more than often than not. And it's really hard for the Arrows here. They need to find these these rooms that the Brawlers aren't really showing. And as the Arrows here, you have two Mountain Dragons, so there's some avenues. You have a Rise that's still able to scale relatively well, just finished the Bansheesville. But it is looking rough here, and I feel like the Brawlers are favoured, but we've seen that they make mistakes as well, and the Arrows have been very diligent in punishing those.
Let's go back to something we never spend any time talking about, Chronicler, and that's the bounty system. Like it or love it, or mostly hate it. As I'm sure Piskers is hating this current situation, unable to dash out with that Realm Warp. He's going to absolutely drop down.
Yeah, that's not looking good.
We can see Aurelia with a 450 gold bounty on her head. She's down on CS. She's 0-1-1. How in the blue hell has that champion got a bounty on its head?
That's a very good question, Gray. I cannot tell you the answer. I'm trying to look. I feel like what might have happened is she stood in a lane against maybe Xdraga, and the system flagged her as you have more CS. No, like legitimately. I feel like that's something that might have happened here, because I don't know where else you get a 150 gold bounty on your head. It's not because of the CS, it's not because of the kills. Maybe what might be the case is that Novasbot hasn't really been laning against her, meaning that Taro has been able to just reliably farm, and the system just sees a unmatched string of CS that's being picked up without any breaks in it, and says, you know, you're doing quite well. We're just going to put another 150 gold on top of your normal 300 gold bounty, and we're going to leave it at that.
The bounty says that Taro is doing well, but unfortunately the reality of the situation is that apart from that assist we saw him getting on Scion just a few minutes ago, really has been unable to do anything. He's now got himself the Titanic Hydra and also the Trinity Force completed, which will help him a little, but it still feels like he wanted to jump onto one of these two key targets, the Echo, the Sivir, that he's still not really got the assassination potential.
And as we see the Infinity Edge being finished out, I feel like team fights for the Brawlers here are just not going to be a possibility. X-Dragon can't afford mistakes like this, but there's Resurrection coming in.
This is why the Arrows need these picks. They've already managed to get themselves a 1-for-0. The Guardian Angel has been procced on the Graves. He dashed himself out, trying to get to safety, but with Sivir throwing the boomerangs around, it's going to be pretty hard. It does look like Graves is going to live on just a sliver of health. Meanwhile, the fight is still continuing. Here's the rumble in the jungle that we were promised earlier on. Ryze takes a blast cone, but that might be his undoing because Echo was waiting on the other side of the wall. The Runic Prison is going to be enough to stop him for a moment, but not to stop Resurrection throwing the boomerangs in. Meanwhile, here's your friendly neighborhood Sion beating on the face of the Aurelia.
And there was a very disjointed team fight there from the Bristol Brawlers. Parallel Converge goes down, and I think this is just going to become a free Nashor here. Mighty Boosh might try and maybe go from a death from below, but no one is really that low. He doesn't have any assistance. We see now Vitamin is making him away as well. They need to get a Miracle Steal here, but it does look like, because of the fact that Robster is still alive, they don't really want to take the risk here. And it was a very disjointed team fight, as I said. Big mistake from Biscus to go back in with the Blast Cone. Robster just able to barely get out of life. The fact that X-Driger stays alive for that long, or rather, not that long, is of course unfortunate. Can't even wait for the hero's entrance. I feel like if the Brawlers had pressed their advantage there, they would have been able to just easily clean the team fight. I feel like they were a little bit split, a little bit indecisive with their calls as well, which leads to a situation in which they're not able to gain as much mileage out of that fight as they did. But I feel like Resurrection is playing very safe at the moment, alright? Like, because have you seen him with less than like a full health and mana bar this game? Because I don't think I have. And I feel like once the Brawlers actually, because this game still looks close, but I think that once they actually start to push their advantage, once they actually find these team fights, and Resurrection is willing to take a little bit more of a risk, they're just going to absolutely decimate the Arrows. Because you have an Aurelia that doesn't do that much. You have Piscus, who just isn't able to find the place on these Ryze that he needs to. And then you have Vitamin and Boost, neither of which have really been able to find his place. It's really just Robster with a perfect KDA, 800 gold bounty, 5-0-1 at the moment, who's keeping the dream alive here for the Nottingham Arrows. But as I say, as soon as Resurrection actually dares to step forward, I feel like this game is over.
Well, let's see whether or not you are right, Chronicler, because right now the 5-0-1 on the Robster might be impressive, but a combined 8-0-6 for the AP carry and the AD carry for the side of Bristol Brawlers certainly is going to be very difficult to deal with. It feels like possibly they didn't fully take advantage of that last fight because of the fact that they'd just lost their jungler and maybe they were stepping away, but at the end of the day, Robster living that time was enough to stop the Baron going down. Will he be able to stop this one now? Because it is already down below half health. There is no Mountain Dragon in the pocket of the Bristol Brawlers, whereas there are two from the Nottingham Arrows. Robster is getting himself closer, looking for potential still. The Baron is down to 2,000 health. The Realm War's been channeled, and it's going to be the fight coming down. Robster gets shut down immediately as Echo dashes out. Now with the Baron so very low, it's going to drop down. Xin Zhao secures him with the smite. It's going to be Aurelia taking a tower in the bot lane, deciding not to teleport into the turret, but in the end it's 5 people for the Brawlers who are going to get themselves a Baron buff, and now they've got a free and easy push in the mid lane.
I don't think the teleport would have made much of a difference there. Terra, of course, in this situation, all you can do is split push. You have the Titanic Hydra, you have your Triforce. In a team fight, you're just not going to do a lot against the team composition that we see here. Now, Nova's bot is there as well to make your life absolutely miserable. And as I said, I feel like the Brawlers, they've been playing rather passively, but like for the last 5 to 7 minutes, I feel like just push your advantages. Now they choose to do it, and you see how incredibly easy it is for them to just, oh wait, we can just demolish Robster. We can just take this Baron whenever we feel like it. And it's working out great for them here. And the Nottingham Arrows had some moments in this game where it looked like they were in control, but they were able to, or weren't able rather, to really solidify that lead and turn it into something more. And with a draft like this, the fact that the Brawlers are having such a great performance on their 2 carries is quite impressive to me.
And a beautifully timed turn there from the Brawlers, who got the Baron down to a certain amount of health, saw Robster and just immediately engaged, and like that,
why
the
take
Graves,
50-50?
Yeah, the Graves was shut down, 800 bounty was in the pocket of the Brawlers along with the Baron. They secured themselves 2 turrets already in the mid lane, but there has been a slight response as Ryze manages to finally get that top turret, the outer top turret. Aurelia picking up a couple of turrets in the bottom lane because she didn't use that teleport. The gold stays a little bit almost even through this power play at the moment, but it is still going to be a small lead over to the Brawlers, who are scaling and scaling and scaling. And
it's not about the gold, right? Because if you look at the gold, you might say that this is a fairly even game, but as the Arrows, you have no split push pressure because Nova's bot can just absolutely demolish anyone you try to send into a sideline. Setting up a 1-for-1 is really tough as well, because either you get faced with Resurrection, as we see a channel there that I don't think is ever going to go through. I feel like Mighty Boosh, mobile as he is still fine there, but...
it was a concerning moment. I think
Yeah.
any other support would have been in quite a lot of danger right there.
it would have been.
Don't you just love Pyke?
Isn't Pike love? I mean, Brom would have probably been able to get out with the stand behind me.
Oh, but here comes the Vanguard's Edge, thrown down as the Realm Warp delivers the rise into the middle of this fight. We can see Galio throwing down the ultimate on top of Sivir, bringing a bit of safety to the ADC. Sion, having just taken the turret in the top lane, comes in with the decimating smash, gets the knock up onto Taro, who has had the roughest of games on this. Aurelia is now 0-3-1. We're going to see Echo shutting down that Zyra, and now Sivir turns her attention onto the Rives, manages to burn the Guardian's Angel from the graves, and this could well be the end of the game because the inhibitor has dropped down. Decimating smash not quite going to be enough to get onto Robster, who managed to pick up the kill onto X-Trigger, courtesy of a nice bone skewer from the Pyke, but I just don't think it's enough for the side of Nottingham Arrows. Bristol Brawlers take down one Nexus turret, immediately turn their attention to the Nexus now. Robster trying to do everything he can from the outside, but he finds a boomerang blade to the face as the Nexus turret drops Nexus itself drops at 34 minutes, giving game one of this best of 3 series to the Bristol Brawlers.
And as we said, it looked kind of even there. We saw moments where the Arrows were able to pull ahead, but in the end, they needed to do more. They needed to find more opportunities. They needed to not throw their leads. They needed to use those 2 mountain dragons that they were able to pick up so easily, quite honestly. But instead, they never were able to set up these plays. They weren't able to outskirmish their opponents. Then both Resurrection and Lisa Kill on the Echo got incredibly fed, and it wasn't anything that they could do.
It was our concern in Champion Select that the game would scale out of control for the side of the Arrows, that they wouldn't have the ability to be able to pick off the opposition if they were, they didn't have the engage potential at the end, and it all came back to bite them. The mistakes made in Champion Select costing them the first game in this best of 3 series.
And looking at game number 2, I feel like one of the issues here is that you pick a skill matchup for your top side. It just doesn't work out at all, because Novice Bot on the side isn't supposed to win lane that incredibly hard against an Aurelia. So that's something that you're kind of worried about. You can pick away the Sion, but it's still like a great performance there from Novice Bot, showing that he's a force to be reckoned with. In the jungle, you do actually have an advantage, and I would love to see the Arrows go for a more aggressive jungler here, so that Robster can actually use the pressure that he has. He also plays Olaf. Quite like to see that, because I feel like if they're able to get that early game lead a little bit earlier, make it a little bit bigger, snowball it a little bit further, they're going to be fine. Based on this draft, though, I don't know if they want to do that, or if they just want to say, okay, so we saw we can get leads in the early draft, but we can't consistently outplay these people. So we're just going to go for a draft that scales as well. But then you run into the issue of, so he tried it in the mid lane, and it just didn't go well at all, because Pisces was having a really, really rough go on the rise there. Just consistently punished, and the same goes for like the 2v2 matchup in the bot lane wasn't looking all that great either.
Yeah, Resurrection definitely winning out in a big way on the Sivir over that Xayah, and also the same is obviously true in the top lane. It was probably the clearest mismatch in terms of what was going on.
Top
the
lane
Aurelia
was
just having
quite
such a rough time. So while I agree with you that maybe seeing Robster pick up a more impactful champion trying to impact the lanes will certainly help the Arrows, will it be able to do enough to actually swing this series in favour of the Brawlers? Well, I guess we'll be able to find out fairly shortly. We'll bring you into Champion Select for Game 2 just as soon as the players are ready. But yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, it just felt like everything was executed well there. They drafted a combination that was sicker than you are, and sick in a kind of like,
yeah,
cool,
no,
awesome.
I completely understand
that.
Theirs was positive sick. Mine is not so positive sick.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you've got to think a little bit more about your draft going into this, and if you're not going to ban away those big champions and the way stop the style of play that was used there by the side of the Brawlers, then surely you've got to find something else that works.
It's so hard. Like, the problem is that what we saw here from the Brawlers is they pick non-lane dominant champions. They picked a Sion. I mean, Echo's a lane dominant champion, but they picked the Sion, they picked the Sivir, and then they completely demolish their opponents in lane with them, and that's what really scares me, because that's not the kind of thing that you can really draft around. Like, you can try and get even more early game picks. Pick a Lucian instead of a Xayah. Pick, instead of something like a Pyke that wants to round, pick a Braum. Like, Lucian Braum is just, you can always fall back to that if you want something lane dominant. But with how well the Brawlers were playing this, I feel like in game number 2, they can do one of two things. They can either say, okay, well, we saw that we can just pick a scaling comp and still outplay you. We'll just do that. Or and that's option number 2, is the Brawlers say, well,
Let's live up to our name.
yeah, let's live up to our name. Last game we picked scaling comp, and we already outskilled you in the lane. Now we're going to pick an aggressive comp, which is going to get these early game power picks, and we're just going to completely steamroll over you. And I think that if they do that, and they execute it as well, it's going to be certain for the Arrows to do anything.
One of my biggest concerns for the Arrows, and if I'm perfectly honest, there are a lot of concerns for the Arrows coming into this game, is the fact that they had Red Side in that last game. They had their choice of any champion in the game apart from the ones that were already picked or banned away, which is still, 100 and something champions to counterpick into this Echo that was locked in. And they picked the Rise. It didn't work. It had a decent amount of damage. It had some impact early on, but the reality is it never did the sort of the machine gun rise that we talked about in pre-game. And if you're doing that in a situation where you've got the counter pick, you're about to find yourself swapping over to the other side of the rift. You've not got that counter pick anymore unless the side of the Brawls decide to show their hand for their mid laner. I mean, they seem to have lost more advantages than they're going to gain as they come into this.
Why would they need to? Because clearly you can just pick something for Novusbot and he's going to be fine. Like, I would not be surprised to see
Doesn't need
them.
a counter pick.
Exactly. And then in the mid lane you can still have that luxury available to you and have it work in such a wondrous fashion as we saw there. So also I feel like the Rise, there were a couple of things there. Just the Xin Zhao Echo combination is one that you need to be so incredibly careful with as you try to reason with. I mean, you can't reason with it because what they're going to do is they're going to push your, take your face and just repeatedly bash it into a wall, which is what we saw happen there. Just of like the ganking power of Halo Blade Xin Zhao, and as soon as either the knock-up hits or the parallel converge, there's just nothing you can do. And let's see to what extent the Nottingham Arrows have taken that last game into account. They ban away the sign. I don't dislike that, but I do feel like the sign wasn't necessarily the problem there.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's doing that to you on a Scion, it's for one of two reasons. Either they're just mechanically better than you, or they're really incredible at Scion. Now, if the second one is true of Novice Bot, then fair enough, this might be a really, really good move from the Nottingham Arrows. But if it's the other one, and suddenly we see him on something even more scary, oh, it could be a bad old day as we see...
his Yasuo, his Urgot, his Yorick are all equally scary, so that's what scares me, is that...
Yorick.
Yeah, like facing off against a fat Sign is not a very fun experience, but facing off against a fat Yorick just doesn't happen because you just try to do stuff and then suddenly Yorick is at your inhibitor with the Maiden of the Mist like wailing away. Has been nerfed a little bit because Yorick was... I feel like that was a little bit of a preemptive nerf because Yorick had some really good counter picks. Like you can pick Jax into him and you can't really blind pick Yorick the way that people have been blind picking other champions like the Sign, like the Sylas. But, you know, right, so now, still a little bit too strong, want to dial down the split pushing power a little bit, and we do see the Pyke ban, despite the fact that it wasn't working out that well. Mighty Boosh still, it is always a threat that you need to take into account.
I think the ban I'm really liking here is that Ivan taken away from X-Trigger. He didn't have the most comfortable of games last time, and it was very much Robster who was out jungling him, so seeing, that a little bit, that continued, maybe making life a little bit harder for the jungler of the Brawlers is very nice. That being said, we are going to see the early lock-in of the Kai'Sa for Fighterman.
And I'd love to go for the Olaf here, as we see another Galio pickup. Trade me. In terms of laning, in terms of dying a lot, not the greatest of games, but the combination, of course, that we've seen so many times of the Jarvan and the Galio is just incredibly strong. Cataclysm combined with the hero's entrance could just and the Flag and Drag could just become such a scary mix of CC that you just can't deal with. And I know for a fact that Novusbot loves to play Yasuo, so imagine if they just pick up Yasuo here if it doesn't get banned away, because I actually think that either the Arrows are going to ban it away, and I love the Sivir pick up here, like we said. Instead of saying we're going to pick lane dominant stuff, they're going to say, we did this last time, worked out great, just going to do it again. We need to see, the Yasuo is going to get banned here. I don't see a way in which that is going through, because if Novusbot gets the Yasuo matchup, and also gets it with a Jarvan and Galio, it's going to be absolutely terrifying.
Alright, Pyke already taken away from Mighty Boosh. We're not going to see him get to play Alistar this game either, so already a little bit of the engaged potential being taken away, and we'll see just what the Arrows decide to draft for their support in the next stage of pickups. Of course, we talked very briefly there about the combination coming out of Galio and Jarvan. I always forget whether it's the bird cage or the bird box that they get referenced to. You get that Cataclysm coming down, and then suddenly you've got the entrance on top of that as Galio, especially if he's playing the KFC, it's trade me KFC. He's got to play KFC Galio, right? So you've got all that coming in, and and then you've got Sivir throwing pizzas in there, the full fast food delivery system. It's
Yeah,
I really want to see that.
I love
need
I love
both
the
those
cohesive
skins.
team that you're going for
I
here,
need both
Grey.
those skins.
I don't know if that's actually what's going to happen here, as we said.
It's going to happen.
Aurelia still gets banned away here from
It's not gonna
Tiro. This time, without the sign available, I guess that they're still doing a respect ban for it. Maybe the pressure that was put out by Taro was a lot more noticeable than what we noticed. And then on the other, we see the Urgot getting banned away as well. And I don't mind target bots against Novice bot because he's really scary, but he still gets the counter pick here. Echo, blind pick last time, blind pick this time. Worked out great for the Bristol Brawlers. And I'm loving that that theme is just, okay, so Zinza wasn't working great, we're going to swap that out, but everything else just stayed the way as it is.
I like the idea that this means that Novice Bot has got something really spicy lined up for us.
I
Something
hope so.
Something he doesn't want to show his hand on. So we're going to see whether or not that Victor goes up into the top lane. Obviously, if it had known it was up against a Bruce, there was a chance that it could have been there to try and counterbalance that. But instead, it looks more likely that we are going to see a Taric. I was getting excited
I
for
thought-
Fiora.
yeah, I
I
thought you
got
were-
completely baited.
I mean, I'm excited for Taric as well. I've not seen that hero in a very long time. Like,
I mean,
that
I'm sitting
champion.
right next to you,
I yeah, that's fair.
Let's not ever talk about my Armor of the Fifth Age Taric cosplay. That didn't quite happen.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If it did, if anyone can find me a picture of that, that'd be lovely. Taric, though, very surprising pick here, and they are going to go with a Cho'Gath, which skills well. Got a little bit of a buff as well in the last patch, but I still feel like Cho'Gath is a pick that either you outscale him, for example, Mundo would do that very well, into a double AP composition, because you have the Cho'Gath, you have the Victor, Kaiser does a considerable amount of AP damage, Mundo got buffed, got more magic resist on his Masochism. And yeah, the late game from the Brawlers here is just absolutely terrifying. Like, if they get to the late game, they win. Even with the Kai'Sa, even with the Victor, even with the Graves, just Mundo completely demolishes as soon as he gets a Spirit Visage. The Cho'Gath and the Victor, you just can't chew through him. The only one who can chew through him is Kai'Sa, meaning she needs to go for an AD build. But then you have the Jarvan, you have the Galio, you have the Echo. You have so much ways of just getting on top of her. And then you have Sivir in the back line just doing what we saw her do last time. I would like to see Resurrection play a little bit less scared, because I do feel like that's a fair play style. Like, he's just saying, I'm just going to do this and we're never going to lose. But I do feel like the game could have been over 5 minutes ago had they just realised how strong they really were and just pushed that advantage, because I think the Brawlers are good enough to do so.
Alright, Chronicler, this is what Tilt is made of. Not for the players, let's forget about them in their arenas across the country for a moment, but for me. This morning, I was playing a game of Ranked. I really wanted to win. I was only a few LP away from promos.
Yeah.
I went up top. I ganked our Mundo.
Nice.
I've got the Olaf down. He's going down.
Olaf down. Mundo up.
He's used his flash. I didn't even need to burn mine because I timed my Alpha Strike so perfectly.
Mossy player.
Yep, I'm one hit away from killing him. And then Mundo bravely flashes forward and cues the Olaf, stealing the kill for himself.
Got him. Did he type got him in chat as well?
He didn't even have the dignity to do that. He then didn't recall, didn't buy any
The
items,
nerve.
had his flash down for some weird reason, and then proceeded to feed the Olaf over and over and over again. And now I have to cast a Mundo game. Thanks for that, Novice Bot. You knew.
Right
You
aim.
knew, Novice Bot.
He somehow knew. He checked your
He knew.
OPGG beforehand, saw that game, watched the replay and said, hey, Mundo, he got a buff. Yeah, why
It
not?
wasn't about the buff,
Double
it's
A-
about tilting Greyheart.
Double AP composition coming out from their opponents. We're just going to go for it.
If he gets any kills, I'm not going to get excited for him.
You're not.
No. There'll
Just
be no
gonna
excitement.
sit there like,
I'll be like, and Novice Bot gets a kill.
gets one, gets two, gets three. Is it going to be a quadra?
kill. Not even a penta, is it?
Yeah, fair enough.
That all being said, I am quite excited for the rest of the draft because we've seen a little bit of adaptation. I'm especially interested in Xtrigger picking up this Jarvan. It was taken away in the second phase of bans in the last game.
Yeah.
This time he gets in there a little bit earlier, secures his jungle pick of choice behind the Ivan, and now he's going to be able to impact in a slightly different way. Two different styles of early impact junglers.
Yeah, I feel like J4 is a little bit more mechanically demanding, but also falls off less into the mid to late game, where Zinzao really just becomes an engagement bot, and maybe, throw the Crescent Guard and hope that you don't die after you've engaged. And if you're really fat, you can dive on top of an enemy carry, but besides that, you're just pretty much a sacrificial lamb, which is what we saw there happen in the end to X-Driger as well. And this time on the Jarvan, you have the engagement, you have the Cataclysm, you have some combo ways. You also just I feel like Jarvan in general is in a bit of a better place than the Xin Zhao. As I say, I feel like Xin Zhao, he was really strong. He never really got nerfed, but the way that his early game translates into a mid to late game just gets done better by stuff like the Jarvan, like the Rek'Sai. Now, Rek'Sai we haven't seen, by the way, and I think that is due to the fact that Conqueror was hit pretty hard in today's nerf. Whether or not it's going to be enough remains to be seen, because might be one of those reactions where people see, oh, yeah, my numbers are taken down, I'm not going to play this anymore, and then in a week they wait a minute, this champion is still busted,
yeah,
still going to play it. Of course, Rek'Sai has some issues of herself as well, like kind of similar to Zinza. I think like Jarvan is a jungler that with Mortal Cadence, the passive, every time he hits someone, it does such a nice amount of damage. Like his general play style is just always going to be good, and like Jarvan is one of those picks that's always kind of been there, you know, like Flag and Drag, Cataclysm, it's never been broken, it's always been kind of okay. Lately it's been getting better and better, which also heals back to a lot of other junglers just getting repeatedly slashed away at. And Jarvan, he's really good at low economy jungling. Just give him a Warrior's Enchant, you know, throw a Black Cleaver in there, then he needs J, and that's all he needs to really do what he wants
so many different styles you can play it as well. You know, you can take the Aftershock, you can take Electrocute, you could even take, you know, a Cinderhulk build if you really, really wanted to, you know, just build an extra bit of tankiness. I don't feel like this team will particularly need that, considering that it's got itself a Galio and a Mundo
I agree.
already. But
there's so much flexibility.
Exactly. So there's flexibility there, and there's a lot of pick potential for the side of the Brawlers again. For the Arrows, where is their pick potential? It feels like for the second game in a row, they have drafted a team that, short of flash stunning from the Taric, short of a Rupture landing perfectly, where are they going to find these picks from as we get later into the game?
Yeah, because we talk about the Mundo, we talk about the Jarvan, but we haven't talked about the fact that we're seeing a Taric and a Cho'Gath, both of which are not very popular picks, and we see a attempt at a cheese here. I don't think either players are going to match each other, as they we've had this happen before, where they just go into each other's jungle and just realise, wait a minute, we're not seeing anyone here, nothing is happening whatsoever. And as they move in here, try to get some wards down, try to find someone, possibly, maybe. But I don't think they're really at a chance here where they're going to find each other.
I think the real question from this is, are we going to see the recalls come in, or is this where the two junglers are going to be starting? Because right now we're seeing recalls coming in from the side of the Arrows, but the Brawlers who are moving up through the field may well find Graves by their red buff.
Yeah, because they are moving there, and I spoke too soon. It looks like when I said that they weren't going to find anyone, the ward does spot them. And this is a 2 versus 3. I can't imagine this going well. Robster going for the autos there. Novice bot not in as strong as a level. In fact, Cleaver does a whole lot of damage, and Robster just has to use the True Grit to get through the wall there. And this is a great start here for the Bristol Brawlers.
Yeah, not only is Graves going to be massively delayed in the clear because of taking his dash rather than some of the damage first of all, but also he's starting that blue buff so much later than Jarvan, who's already picked up the red and moving to Raptors.
And as you say, it also means that Novelbot gets some free trades there. Of course, the sustain from Terra is going to be just finding the lane, and until Mundo gets his ultimate, I don't know if he can really have the impact that we saw from the last game. But then again, I thought that was going to be the case with the Sign as well, and that he was doing just fine. Now this mid game, or this mid lane rather, is this one we see the barrier being picked up by the Ari Victor. Piska's last game really being on the receiving end of a whole lot of hurt. This time, same thing can happen honestly, like EQ from Xdraga combined with Lisa Kill's Parallel Convergence is just a deadly combination, as was the Zinza last time. The Victor, of course, with the Gravity Field, maybe has a little bit more survivability instead of teleporters going for the barriers, so there are some avenues there, but still, Victor, all things considered, is still quite gank susceptible.
Alright, a nice slow start across the two lanes as things start up. We're going to be 3 minutes in, and not even the inkling of first blood, as trades are not really happening anywhere apart from here in the top lane, where a really, really annoying champion is beating into the Cho'Gath, and he's looking to get some damage down, but the Rupture is going to knock Novice Bud up. Up you go, and away you have to run. Flash still available for both of the top lanes. Meanwhile, Xtrigger looking for his first potential pick. He uses that Flag and Drag, does not manage to get a knock up onto Piscus though.
Does not. And last time we saw a lot of calm in the early game as well, not that much happening until there were some ganks going on, until we saw some movement here and there, as we see Robster pick up his own red buff now. And there's the Justice Punch, but can't find anyone. The taunt is nice, but it's just not enough, as Resurrection this time not really able to build up a CS lead. And the game is looking relatively even here thus far, as the Arrows, in my opinion, they do still have a really nice scaling, and I feel like if they get ahead with this composition, they're absolutely terrifying, but can they actually manage that?
You dropped the S word there, and that was and that's scaling, not anything worse than that. And
Indeed.
Is there, I mean, you say there's more scaling this time for the Arrows in comparison to what they had last time. Is there enough in comparison to the Sivir that obviously is going to be putting out so much damage with its Critical Strike later, the tankiness that's going to come out of Mundo?
It's not even just the scaling as we see Robs to go for another nice gank here. The taunt is going to be enough. Resurrection, again, cool as a cucumber, doesn't use heal, doesn't use flash, doesn't have to do anything. The problem wasn't really that there wasn't any scaling available, it's just that Nottingham Arrows fell so far behind on their scaling carries that they just couldn't really do anything, particularly Piskus in the mid lane that just was unable to find it. And look at this, I thought for a second that Novus was going to flash for it, but looking at it, he already used his flash, which is probably why Taro is solo in the first place. Teleport advantage is available though, meaning that on his first back, Taro will have full health to try and challenge Novus here. And thus far, the Arrows are able to exert a lot of pressure, but no real kills getting picked up just yet.
If Taro does manage to get first blood onto Novice Bot, or if anyone else manages to kill Novice Bot, you will hear the most excited over-the-top casting for a kill in top lane ever. It's not going to be first blood though, because that's happening here in the bot lane right now as Taric flashes forward. We're going to see Sivir getting the retaliation kill onto the Kai'Sa, as now Taric will have to duel out with the Sivir to see what happens at the end of this bot lane feud. However, the 1-for-1 does go, the first blood goes in favour of the Arrows, but the Brawlers are the ones who get the kill onto their ADC.
We saw last time, Resurrection, if he gets kills, he gets scary. Trade me KFC. Let's be honest, last time he died a lot of times too, but it didn't really hinder the Bristol Brawlers in what they wanted to do, and I don't think it's going to be different here. What is huge though is the difference in back here, because I don't think that Resurrection actually might be able to pick up the pickaxe or pick up a BF sword as well, as he was able to get a kill and is ahead in CS, but instead opts to go into a pickaxe and a double longsword, meaning that initially, at least, I think for the upcoming trades, Vitamin is going to have a little bit of an edge. Is that going to be enough? I don't think so. I think just in terms of laning, you're still looking down an incredibly scary, at least safe lane. Like, this is what kind of baffles me, is how you win a 2v2 this decisively with a Sivir, because Sivir early game just really doesn't do that much. She's just not strong in the early game. It's one of her few weaknesses, and it is very noticeable. Feast is available here, and there's Xdraga coming in.
Novice Bot going really early on the sadism there, trying to get all that health back, and now it's going to be Jarvan coming in doing the work, trying to get the kill onto Taro, who flashed himself away, puts the Rupture up, looking for the Feast, and he's going to get it! It's going to be first kill for Taro onto Xtrigger. Unfortunately, Novice Bot does kill Taro on the back of that. Nuts to you, Mundo. But in the meantime, over on the bot lane, we are going to see 3 men starting up this Infernal Dragon. This is such a crucial objective, and that's where Echo's going to roam down. We're going to get ourselves a 3 versus 3 as the Boomerang are being thrown down. The knock-up is going to come in as Trade Me KFC jumps onto the Taric. Meanwhile, there's a kill, gets himself one onto the Kai'Sa, and Graves is going to drop down as the Boomerang Blade picks up one for free. The Infernal Dragon will go over to nobody as Victor comes over in time to stop that from dropping down, and I'll have to eat my words on that one, because despite the control ward in the pit, with the jungler down, this is going to be an uncontested objective going over to the side of the Bristol Brawlers. Meanwhile, they are going to lose their no, hold on, that wasn't them losing their... What just happened?
Double kill for Victor.
Piskus flashes in!
So, 2 times in a row...
I'm so lost, what just happened?
2 times in a row, the teams completely underestimate the AoE damage that the opposing team is able to put out. So first, I understand the reflect from the arrows. What they see is Xdraga dies in top lane. That means we're going to do Infernal.
Yeah.
But you're staring down the barrel of an Echo, a Sivir, and a Galio, all of which are loving those Dragon Pit fights, right? Like Boomerang Blades, Taunts, Parallel Convergence, all the damage that they have is AoE, and it's just going to do so well in the small confined areas there. So that's when the Bristol Brawlers win the fight. But then instead of taking a little bit of patience, same thing we saw with Xdraga, because he should have never died there in the top lane, because the fact that he flashed on top of him when the Feast was still available is just a lack of patience, because they wouldn't gotten that kill anyway when the Flag and Drag was available again. And then the Brawlers do the same thing that the Arrows do, which is disregard the damage that Piskus is going to be able to put out, and they get double killed. Which is a really good position here for Piskus, because last time we saw that on a scaling carry he fell too far behind. That's not going to be a problem this time. Also means that Resurrection actually dies this game. Does take more of a risk, which I like. and the fact that Novasbot picks up a kill in the top lane as well is good for everyone that isn't you.
So I've got to put out 3 things there. Number 1, still hate Mundo. Number 2 is that the Infernal Dragon is still up. No one was able to secure that one on the back of all of that excitement. Number 3 is a massive apology to Piskis, because courtesy of the spectator cam taking us up to see Mighty Boosh's death up in the opposition jungle, we didn't really see the magic that came out. I assume that it was the Kale Storm being thrown down, the double kill being secured, but absolutely wonderful plays coming out of mid laner, who really had a rough time of things on the rise in the last game.
Really wanting to turn things around here means that the Dragon is not going to get picked up by anyone, which is really good for them. But unfortunately, in the end, Nottingham Arrows still behind in gold. A little bit of CS disadvantage in the top lane, a little bit of the CS disadvantage in the bot lane, and this time they are ahead mid. But still, just on the back of that one kill, it's not enough. Now we see exactly the same mistake being made, but this time Hero Entrance is available. They're trying to go for it. Piskis is able to zone them off, and I would love to see a contest here, but with the back timer there from Lisa Kill, they don't want to take the risk this time, and I feel like giving is up so freely when they did such a good job at contesting it before is kind of baffling to me. Guess they feel like they don't want to take the risk here, as it looks like Resurrection is going once again for the Essence Reaver here. But I feel like they did so well last time. They have the Hero's Entrance, they have X-Driger on the way, just need to stall for a little bit, draw some attention. Instead, Infernal Drakes go over, and we've talked so many times about like these different types of dragons, but Infernal Drake is pretty much as good as it's going to get. Yeah, until you get to Eldra, it's pretty much the king of the dragons, and right now it's going to certainly help out the Arrows as they look to try and get themselves back into this series. They, of course, find themselves 1-0 down to the Bristol Brawlers in this best of 3 here in Group 3 of the Belonga Arena Clash. However, right now they're doing quite a lot to positively reinforce the fact that they could well come back and take this series. They're down in kills, they're leveling gold, they've got an Infernal Dragon, and right now I want to see some more plays being made by Robster, because at this point of the last game he was not in a 0-1-0 position. He already had a couple of kills to his name. It was a long time before his first death, and right now I want to see him be more impactful. Yeah, and the Brawlers trying to look for opportunities here, but they can play it fairly safe, as said before. This time, Lisa Kill, though, not having as big of an impact as he did last game. Still 2-0, and that snowball that we saw from him coming out can happen again. It's this Mundo that I'm really worried about. Once Spirit Visage is finished, one of these team fights are going to be breaking out. I feel like we're going to have a similar issue that we had last time, where the composition from the Brawlers is just so easy to execute. On the side of the Arrows this time, though, it's a little bit more even, because Piskis is going to do a lot of damage on the Victor, especially since it's already 2-0. We see that Taro on the Cho'Gath is not going to have the pressure that he needs to have like he did on Aurelia, and Kai'Sa does quite well, skills better into the late game than Azaya does, at the cost of some survivability. But the Taric helps with that, of course, but still, like, the Bristol Brawlers just team fight so well, as we see another instance here. Don't think they can actually pick something up on the back of this, though. Nice response. Heal does get popped. Yeah, X-Trigger unable to get anything there, and at the end of that fight, despite the taunt landing from Trade Me KFC, unfortunately, that was a gank attempt that was about as abysmal as Aston Villa's performance in the Championship this year. And good reference. And it's a very topical reference. No, I agree. You know, wasn't being sarcastic. Here comes Galio. This is going to be X-Trigger finally looking to try and do a little bit more. Throws down the Cataclysm, and that is such an immobile victory. Just has the flash available, and that's going to be enough for him to pick up a kill. Piskis is having the game of his life in this series so far. We're going to see Robster dashing forward, throwing out the collateral damage, unable to pick up the kill onto the Galio. But what a turn of events, as yet again we see Victor come up big, but he's going to be missing that flash for a while now, and that's so hard against an Echo, a Galio, and a Jarvan. And we're basically seeing a repeat of game number 1, where the Bristol Brawlers decide, you know, we can make some big plays with this Hero's Entrance, but it's just not working out very well. X-Driger overextends, Lisa Gill tries to go for something, but has to use absolutely everything, and a very good trade there coming out from the Arrows in the end. They finally turn around the gold lead here. Another kill here for Piskis. It is the question, is Piskis going to be able to really carry it, because he is staring down the barrel of that Mundo and of a Jarvan Galio that once they get on top of him, he can still get deleted. But if they don't, if he can stay alive, if he can make sure that, you know, Mighty Boosh keeps him alive, Taro stands in front of him, then their pressure is going to be absolutely devastating, and there's actually going to be a real chance that the Bristol Brawlers are going to get demolished here, but there the teleport comes in.
It's going to be Mundo joining in with the party. He finds himself a stun to the face. It's going to be Killer Instinct procced by Fireman as he tries to get away, using the flash as well, consistently trying to dash out. Has not got the damage to get anywhere near taking down Mundo, as we see the ultimate being used by Taric, buying them a little bit of time, but there's no damage raining on them from the Brawlers right now, and all that's happened is the teleport gets burned for the flash of Fighterman.
Indeed. What I'm wondering about is what is the miscommunication going on there for the Brawlers, because we see that the teleport comes in for a Novice bot, but Trade Me KFC kind of backs off, which all things considered is a little bit worrisome to me, and they keep underestimating the damage that Pisces does here. Again, forces some flashes, forces a Chrono Break. I don't think collateral damage is going to be enough with the heal there on Novice bots, but Brawlers can't afford to keep making these mistakes, and they're almost a K gold down, and the pressure is just going to keep coming. Still, somehow, they find the first turret spot, and all of a sudden, the gold is pretty much even again.
Alright, the game is balancing on a knife edge right now. Victor is constantly making people think again as they come to try and duel him. Meanwhile, here comes the Cho'Gath looking for a bit of a hunt with the Graves. They're trying to get the damage down onto Sivir, but Sivir absolutely out-dueling them in the end. The feast comes through though, and that's going to be a 1-for-1 as Cho'Gath gets his second kill game. Tero having a much happier time on this Cho'Gath than he did on the Arena in game 1. Fireman helps out as well, gets himself his first kill, taking the Galio down, and in the end it's a 2-for-1 in the favour of the Nottingham Arrows. They get things across the board, but they do lose the first turret, and Mundo gets a bit of free push in top lane.
Also confused why the Brawlers don't go full Rift Herald here, as they have priority in top, priority in mid, and they just saw that the opposing jungler, actually no, Rupster wasn't there, but like even then, I don't know, like Taro isn't there, you have priority in 2 lanes. That could have been a free Rift Herald. Instead Drager just X-Dragon just goes for his jungle clear, and these are just mistakes. I don't think the Brawlers, I feel like the Brawlers are still in a favourable position here based on how well they played these team fights last game, based on the fact that Resurrection is still getting fat somehow, even though they lose a couple of turrets here, and the Nottingham Heroes might very well turn around, but the Brawlers, the mistakes that they make, you just can't do that against teams, because I feel like the fact that they still have a chance against the Arrows also says something about how close these two teams are in terms of, you know, the power level. They're really similar. If you do something like what the Brawlers are doing here, and also what the Arrows are doing, against some of the better teams here at the Belong Arena Clash, you're going to get absolutely demolished. This time, though, no such thing. Spirit Visage is finished, and Novice Bot is going to be so hard to chew through here. The Arrows do have a sizable gold lead, and I feel like with this composition, they're not too scared about making it into the mid to late game. Also have an Infernal, and this next Dragon might put a little bit of extra dent in the armor of the Brawlers, and see Dragon going aggressively here once again. Looking
to get as much damage on Terror as he possibly can, but that is a mighty, meaty Cho'Gath trying to get himself to safety, easily going to be able to do so. Resurrection as well, we saw what one Q from, sorry, it wasn't Q, I think it was the E coming in from Pisces can do to him right now, and it is one hell of a lot of damage, losing almost half his health to that burst. If Resurrection mispositions even slightly, it could be the end of him, as we see the Cloud Dragon secured by the by the Nottingham Arrows. Bristol Brawlers will retaliate by immediately taking down the Herald, but Cho'Gath is looking to try and steal it away. Not quite going to be able to, though. In the end, that one goes into Jarvan's pocket.
And that's a trade that I think you're happy with as the Brawlers. Cloud Dragon, not the biggest of dragons. Also depends on how well Shelly can be used here, as we see that the Scuttle then gets picked up, and the Arrows are looking a lot more comfortable in this game than they were last time. But not forget, last time they had a little bit of a gold advantage as well, and then it was harder, but that was a different team composition. This time, with the Cho'Gath and with the Victor, they can actually look for these team fights. Novice Bot uses his ultimate, and like, I'm a little bit scared for him, but then he uses it, I'm like, no, Mundo's fine. He just runs away, goes where he pleases.
Can we be all exceptionally clear? Mundo is not fine. We don't like Mundo, especially that disgusting Hulk skin. What on earth is that all about? X-Trigger's coming up to help the incredible Salt, and now we're going to see Galio coming on. The Birdcage is here, but it's going to be flashed away from both Graves and Cho'Gath, trying to get himself to safety as the Cosmic Radiance is channeled. It's going to be a bit of time for the side of the Arrows to put down as much damage as they possibly can, and Robster managed to get the kill onto of Resurrection. Now Victor is here doing all of the work with that Chaos Storm. Double kill for the Robster as he manages to take down the Mundo, make that a triple. Robster's come to the party and he's got himself a triple kill. Suddenly the Graves is alive in this game. Echo running for the hills, and it's going to be an easy turret for the Nottingham Arrows.
And out of nowhere, the Nottingham Arrows get a demanding lead here in this game, which up until this point was fairly even. The Brawlers overextend once again here, try to go really deep, picking up some kills. Great job there from Mighty Boosh in stalling that long. And while all of this was going on, there was a bot lane turret getting picked up as well. And Resurrection in the previous game, one of the issues that I had with him was that he wasn't playing forward enough. But now he's been getting picked up multiple times here. I feel like he's really the linchpin for the Brawlers. If he stays alive, they have so much peel, they have so much dive, and they have a really strong front line. They can just sustain through pretty much anything and then have Sivir do all the damage. But if Resurrection gets taken out right from the get-go, there's just nothing you can do. And now, Taros looking a lot stronger, has the Riders Glory 2 and 1. As you say, Robster, not a really big factor in this game, but then you give him a triple, and Trade Me KFC, you saw that they were going for a Hero's Entrance play there, but again, it's just a little bit awkward, a little bit too late, and the miscommunication on the side of the Brawlers here are proving to be too much, and they're at a firm disadvantage now with that comp. They don't need to be too scared. Lisa Kill, I think, is still perfect in the series. If I remember correctly, I don't think he died last time on the Echo either. Which is great, but he's not having the performance that he had last time where he was really able to match it. Also, he's 60 CS behind his opponent, and Piskis, after a rather unfortunate game number 1, wants to show I'm here with 5.4k gold ahead, and this time we're going to take it and even up the score here between the Nottingham Arrows and the Bristol Brawlers.
Maritz, 2 words for you. Cosmic Radiance. It wasn't here in the last game, and it's making such a big difference already. It was the impactful spell of that last fight, buying enough time for the Arrows to not only get reinforcements but put the damage down while not losing any members.
Yeah, because that could stall it out for so long that the Hero's Entrance didn't really matter. And mind you, this was a 4 versus 5. Because Resurrection just got deleted right from the get-go. It didn't feel like that. But Vitamin wasn't even near this fight. He was just in the side lane, pushing a turret and doing a great job here.
And as he gets more and more power as well, that's going to take some of the pressure off of Piskis. If you're suddenly committing multiple members, you know, that Jarvan, the Echo, the Galio, into trying to kill off this Victor who has absolutely oodles of damage with his completed Hex Core, well, all of a sudden you've got a Kai'Sa who's just like pew pew pew, going full Uzi in the background.
Yeah, Rift Herald is summoned now, but I don't think it's going to be the big effective Herald that they're looking for.
Definitely
we see a big response coming out, and it's just Resurrection and Trade Me that are trying to look and secure something here. Are they even going to get the first charge? It does look like it. It's not the greatest of trade, but at least it picks you up a turret, meaning that the gold deficit is a little bit smaller, at least for now. And it looks like a little bit of calm has creeped back into this game, but the Arrows, we wanted this from them last time, are really setting the pace of the game. We see that Resurrection this time is not fed, has the rapid fire cannon but does not have the IE yet, meaning that his power spike is going to be a little bit further delayed. Once he hits 3 items, I feel like we can expect the Brawlers to start turning these fights again, but they might not have the time because Baron is getting started here.
There is no vision on this from the side of the Bristol Brawlers. Will they have an inkling that something is going on as we see the Baron dropping down to around about the 8,500 health? Will we see the
I don't think they know.
Bristol Brawlers are completely unresponsive. This is going to be a free Baron to the Nottingham Arrows. They get this on 5 members without so much as a spell cast in their direction. Your face says it all there.
I'm very confused as to what was happening here. 5 people go off the map for an extended amount of time. Just nothing happens from the Bristol Brawlers. Just a free pickup Baron. They don't even have. They have a Kai'Sa, which does well. They don't have a Mountain Dragon, so you saw that. No. But they were able to chew for it at a relatively fast pace. It's not like it's, you know, really sneaky Baron. I felt like around 3-4k health, they should have at least started pinging it down. But instead, the Bristol Brawlers just looking like they're going to give the Nottingham Arrows the win here, because giving up an objective like that for free is not a great way to further progress this game, as you're up a game in a best of 3, but now you're 6k gold behind. Your wave clear is quite good, but I don't think you're going to chew through Baron minions that fast.
We have had a key element of what's going wrong for the Brawlers been identified, not only by myself earlier on, but now by Twitch chat as well. It's not the Mundo. We already hate the Mundo, okay? Let's make that abundantly clear. Mundo can go somewhere else that's not the Rift, okay? But look at the lack of synergy coming in from what is now a combined 3 and 7 lane here in the bot lane. Sivir did not take pizza delivery. Galio did not take KFC delivery.
Yeah,
Other types of pizza
that's the
are
problem.
available. There is no synergy there. Wings aren't raining down from above. There's no horrible olives on the pizzas being thrown at you, making you feel sick.
You don't
as you're
like
trying to
olives
fight.
on pizza?
Who does?
I don't know. Anyone? Yeah.
Apparently.
I don't dislike them. I mean,
We're not friends
They
anymore
belong
now.
there, right? Like mushrooms?
Well,
Pineapple?
my point being...
Not opening up that discussion.
Oh, here we go again. But my point being, that lack of synergy in the skin line is reflecting in the play as well. In the last game, the Defs were coming in for Trade Me KFC, but at least they were achieving the ultimate goal of getting the Sivir fed. Since the early couple of kills have been picked up for the Sivir, that has not been happening in this game. Instead, we're seeing Resurrection being picked off again and again and again. The lack of synergy in a very real way here in the bot lane is costing the Bristol Brawlers.
Another red turret gets taken down. This goal needs to get bigger and bigger. Piskis is having none of it. Resurrection falls just to flash, just to barely stay alive here. Chaos Storm tries to follow Driger, who I think wanted to go in for a play there and try and make something work. Should not have done that. Piskis said, thank you very much for the kill. And it looks like we're going to get a third game here in this best of 3 because the Brawlers are simply making too many mistakes. The Arrows are punishing them quite appropriately. And it feels to me like the Brawlers are playing as if they were playing the last game still. Like the calls they are making are very cocky calls that were alright in the previous game where they had a Sivir that was hyper-fed and when Lisa Kill had an absolutely great job, but this time they have the same issues, which is Xdriger and Trade Me having a really rough go, but none of the upsides, and it's showing.
Let's give a massive amount of credit to the Arrows as well. Ever since they snuck that Baron, which arguably they shouldn't have been in a position where they could do quite so easily, they've had a wonderful 1-3-1 split going on. They've put pressure on all the inhibitors. Though they're still yet to crack that inhibitor line yet, they are doing really, really strong work, and it feels like only a matter of time before they get their first significant structure.
Yeah, and now the 5k gold that we spoke about a couple of minutes earlier has turned into much more, and they try and go for a Hail Mary engager, but I don't think it's working.
It's now or never for the Bristol Brawlers, and it looks like they have selected the option of never. The flash is forced out of Trade Me KFC, and we've all seen Xdriger dropping down, trying to force the Cataclysm. It's going to be the Chrono Break being used by Lisa Kill, but he is going to be dropped to the grave. Victor picking up his 6th kill of the game. It was a deathless Lisa Kill in the last game. He's picked up his first death here, but his old opposition mid laner Piskis is 6-0-4. First inhibitor drops down, and right away the rotations come in straight to the bot lane.
And I feel like they could have just pushed on there instead, opting to go for something else, not wanting to take the risk, which I respect as well, but it feels like with just the Sivir and the Mundo, not the threat of the Galio taunts and like these really big teamfight plays, like it would have been quite easy for them to just pick up at least 1 or 2 Nexus turret there. Instead, wanting to play it a little bit safer, which I can't fault them for. Resurrection has been able to consistently stay alive here ever since his 3rd death. So there is still the opportunity, but it's a much slimmer one that we saw last time where the Arrows still had somewhat of an opportunity. This time though, their team kiting is quite strong. They have an incredibly tanky Cho'Gath that no one is going to chew through. They have 3 immense threats, and then Mighty Boo's lost him on the Pike. He didn't really have the big impact that we'd like to, but here on a defensive support, it's looking absolutely smashing because he's making sure that Fighterman can stay alive. If anyone else gets targeted, doesn't matter, throw a Cosmic Radiance on them, a stun here and there, and all of a sudden it's looking amazing here for Nottingham Arrows in game number 2.
He's had a wonderful performance, and yet again so has Robster. We saw it in the last game where he outperformed the Xin Zhao on this Graves. This time he is now 4-2-3 with a Black Cleaver completed. He's got Phantom Dancer as well as an Executioner's calling for the bleed on Mundo. Obviously got the Warrior Enchant. Look over on the other side of the map. That's a 0-4-2 Jarvan, who is 45 CS behind, has not even completed the Black Cleaver. No second item there, and it is just not looking good for the J4, who keeps trying to make things happen, keeps getting melted.
Yeah, and Piskis is really the biggest turning point in my opinion, because I feel like the rest of the team, Taro is having of course a bigger impact, but the Cho'Gath also not the necessity to make a lot work as Novice Blood goes in here and is really overstepping his boundaries.
The Mundo's dead. Long live the Nottingham Arrows as they get themselves their 2nd inhibitor. Down drops Novice Bot. He wanted that Scion so bad. Banned away from him in this game, forced to take the Mundo. Now we see the flash, the stun coming in from Mighty Booch. It's going to be the kill picked up by the 5, 2 and 4 Robster, as it looks like the Nottingham Arrows are looking to close out game 3 pre-30 minutes. They do it faster than the Brawlers did in game 1. They have taken their advantage as well, as we yet again see Resurrection taken down by Piskis. Now we're going to see the nice use of the gravity field failed. That's going to stop Galio in his tracks. No Birdio, no win. That's how it is for the Brawlers. The Nottingham Arrows level the series 1-1.
And that is going to make for an amazing third game here, because the Brawlers, it wasn't the draft again here, it was the way that they played. I said before, and I feel like that's really what went wrong here. They played this game as if it was the same game they were playing before. They made the same greedy calls. They tried to punish. They tried to go and constantly fight these little skirmishes. And you can do that once you're ahead. But what I saw here is once the Brawlers actually fall behind, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to respond to an opponent that if you fall behind and you try to force these engages, you're going to get melted by the Victor. You're going to get melted by the Graves. And Mighty Boosh on the Tarek doing an amazing job of keeping the rest of his team alive. And all things considered, great comeback here from the Arrows. And I have a really hard time because I feel like the momentum swung so hard. If we see an early game composition coming out from the Ballers, I feel like they still have the opportunity because they are a team that does stuff, which I really like. Like the Brawlers are wanting to go, they try and force engages. Just the way that they're doing it this game is so cocky and they get punished appropriately.
There was a key turning point in that game, and we didn't even see it. At the Infernal Dragon, Victor picking up his first couple of kills of the game, denying the Infernal Dragon from the opposition.
And if that didn't happen, like imagine...
The whole game's different.
Because then they pick up the Infernal, right? Like they just back off, come back. The Sivir has a double kill, if I'm not mistaken, at that point in time. You just pick up the Dragon.
And you know who gets the credit for that? Mighty Boosh.
Yeah.
He runs up, he's near death on the back of what had been a lost fight for the Arrows. He runs up into the opposition jungle, takes a couple of people to chase him down who do pick up the kill, but while all that's happening, and we see that a Sivir and I think it was Galio finishing off the Dragon,
did not work.
In comes Victor, boop, you dead.
Yeah, and they make the exact same mistake their opponents did, which is like going into a Dragon Pit against an opponent with a lot of AoE damage while you're low without your jungler. It was just never going to end well. And it seems appropriate that the way in which, at that early point in time, there could have been a demanding lead, because if they back off, wait 10 seconds, then Jarvan's there, they just pick that up. But the exact same thing happened when the Arrows went for that Infernal Drake in the first place. So that little seesaw there, this time works out well for the Arrows. I find it very hard to call who's going to take game number 3 here, because both these teams show that they can once they get an advantage. But the Arrows, when they were behind, had more of an opposing issue where they just didn't really do anything, as opposed to the Brawlers, who tried to do way too much.
That fight at Dragon was a seesaw, so has this series been. It is levelled up by the Nottingham Arrows at 1 game apiece. We are going to take a 5-minute break now before we bring you to Champ Select in Game 3, but be sure to tune in for the conclusion of this fantastic series after the break.
I was a big traditional sports player when I was younger. I have an injury, which means I can't do this anymore, and it sort of fulfills that team aspect for me, and I really enjoy gaming from a young age anyway. My name's James Cowling. I play for Bristol Smugglers, and my favourite game is League of Legends. I've always played competitive games. I started at Call of Duty, and went through to play CSGO. And when I started playing League, I just wanted to get better and needed to test myself. My name is Jermaine. My tribe is Bristol Smugglers. My favourite game at the moment is League of Legends. For the most part, currently I'm just coaching, but when I do play and sub in, I play jungle. As a sort of big team sports player, I really enjoy being part of the competition of the Arena Clash. I'm really looking forward to representing Bristol Smugglers and helping the team out get some victories as well. Been going, I think, for 4 seasons in a row now, and I've enjoyed it every time. Whether the seasons I didn't directly play, I was just there just to enjoy the atmosphere and just watch them happen. It's really cool. It's quite nice to kind of grow friendships between the different tribes and even rivalries. Come down, you'll meet some really nice people who are easy to talk to, similar sort of interests, which you don't always get to meet up to in sort of school and your standard activities. So just come down and enjoy yourself. It's the most important thing.
We are back for great game 3 in this series between the Nottingham Arrows and the Bristol Brawlers. And straight after the conclusion of this series, we'll get to bring you the Norfolk Nighthawks going up against the Cardiff Saints. We're going to be jumping into Champ Select pretty quickly to find out who's going to take this series. The Arrows bounce back in a big way, and it's going to be tough for the Brawlers. They've got to show some real mental strength there.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call for me as well as the Terry get bans away. Because, if they ban Mundo now on the other end, then you're going to be very happy.
I'll be delighted.
Yeah, Stan loves his Mundo bans.
I will cheer for any team that bans Mundo today.
But the play from the Arrows was about as sick of a comeback as I'm feeling right now, which is quite nice. Galio being banned away there, which was kind of baffling to me because I feel like Trade Me KFC on the Galio was one of the key things that I did not like about the Brawlers. Would have much rather seen them switch that up. Instead, the Arrows say, okay, so the first game worked out well, and I understand from a certain point of view because Galio still allows you to do things that are just annoying to play against, right? Like every time you need to take into account the fact that last time communication from the Brawlers wasn't good enough doesn't mean that it's not an annoying pick to play against.
I understand the Galio pick, and I think that if someone's played something 2 games in a row, it's nice to make them go, oh, at least show me something else you can do. But at the same time, I think it's really crucial that we see a Scion ban coming out, because if we don't see that Scion ban and Novusbot is able to do what he did to Tero in game 1, that could be disaster for the Arrows.
It's not good. No, and will we see that is the big question here as they make us wait a very long time. I thought that like midway through that sentence, as it keeps going and going and going, I thought, there we go. Not the Sign, and I'm expecting a first pick Sign. Sign is also one of those few things that don't really have any good counter picks, and they're instead opting to go for the Pike, so picking that away from Mighty Bush, and also giving Trade Me KFC something completely different, but it's also his most played champion.
I legitimately did 100% expect a Scion first pick, but it's not what's going to come through. Instead, we're going to see the Cho'Gath taken for the second game in a row by Tero. He had a much better time on that than his Aurelia, which isn't banned away this time. Let's see whether or not Novusbot's got something in the bag to take down this Cho.
You can just pick the Sign again, right? Like, it's going to be a tank matchup. It's not going to be very exciting for us to watch, but
wet noodles for days.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, against each other, yeah, definitely. And again, yeah, Robstorm the Graves, I'm loving it. I don't think that it's necessarily such a big threat they need to ban it away. What might have wanted to ban away was Piskis on this Victor. To be fair, he was handled, or was handed rather, some early kills, but he played it expertly afterwards as well, and the Brawlers just kept bashing that head into it. Just wasn't working out very well. If they didn't do that this time, not sure whether it's going to work just as well, and I'm loving the Sejuani pick up here. It's very clear that Xdrago wants to go for these constant engages, and Sejuani allows him to do that.
The Arrows seem to be playing a game of stick to what you know. Of course, one of the most crucial things about their composition last time was the Taric. That's already been banned away, as we see the Renekton locked in. 3 brand new champions for the Brawlers to play around with.
And that's interesting. Meanwhile, on the side of the Arrows, they say, why change what's not broken? Opting to go for, again, the Graves, again the Victor, again the Cho'Gath. So no silent ban, obviously, as Renekton was getting picked up there. And Novusbot is quite scary. They say, Resurrection, same thing as with the Galio. We've seen you on this multiple times, we're going to ban it away. And I don't dislike that. I feel like Resurrection, Sivir was quite scary. Last game, though, they were able to deal with it quite expertly. And something like the Echo ban to force Lisa kill off that as well is something that they might want to go for, but again, the same issues arise that we saw earlier on, where I'm saying the Nottingham Arrows, they're banning them away because they keep defaulting to these picks. Instead, it's going to be a Fiddlesticks ban, and that really signifies to me that they want to go for, or expect something out of the blue here from the Brawlers, and more importantly, maybe they want to go for something that is hard countered by the Fiddlesticks.
I mean, yeah, quite possibly. I mean, how out of the blue would the Fiddlesticks have had to have been, though? I mean, there's already a support of the jungler picked up by the side of the Brawlers.
I'm trying to find a reason here, but I'm just as clueless as you, to be quite honest. I did not see that pick coming in the slightest. Fiddlesticks, of course, one of the supports that if Resurrection was going to go for, which I don't think he plays for something like a Heimerdinger, is quite a nuisance to deal with, but I don't think that's the style of champion pool that he has.
No, with the Pike already locked in as well, that was never really going to happen.
Right.
So,
I mean, maybe it's some wacky mid lane Pike that just buys mobility boots and roams permanently, but I don't think that's really what you want to go for.
Well, we are going to see the Lulu locked in now. That's going to be the support champion for the side of the Nottingham Arrows, finally changing things up from their draft. They were forced to, of course, because the Taric was taken away. The Kaiser was banned by themselves, so they're not going to be able to pick that one up for Fighter Man, as we do see the side of Bristol Brawlers about to lock in their final 2 picks. They're going to secure the Tristana to go alongside the Pike in the bottom lane, and it does look like they might be about to pick up a really heavy damaging AP mid laner for Lezakil. Now, he's played 2 games of Echo so far. He's only died once, despite the fact that his team had a fairly poor performance last time round. Will he jump back onto that assassin champion, or will he look for something a little bit more like a control mage, possibly this Syndra?
I like this a lot more, because the problem with the Echo is, of course, that if Victor gets ahead, every time you try to go for a trade, he just places Gale's Field underneath you, and he hits you with delays, because Echo, you're fairly predictable. And a Twitch pick here would be quite something. I feel like that's a huge risk that you're taking. Like, if the Twitch gets online, it's incredibly scary, but you're facing off against a Syndra, a Renekton, a Sejuani, a Pike. And the Xayah makes a lot more sense to me, a lot of a safer pick, more all-round, and still allows you to use the Lulu. It's not as much of a hyper carry, but do you really need a hyper carry when you got multiple carries on your team? I don't think so. The Lulu pick, though, feels a little bit suspect to me, but depending on how well the lane goes, it can still work out quite fine.
Of course, the Rakan could have also been picked up, could have ended up with the Lovers bot lane, but that is not to be. Fighter Man with his 2nd game of Xayah in tonight's games. Game 1 did not go quite so well. Resurrection taking the Sivir and able to just consistently safely push up, and in the end completely out-damage the Xayah. If the side of the Nottingham Arrows are to pick up their 2nd win tonight, to pick up their 1st win in the Belong Arena Clash, then they're going to need to do considerably better with this Xayah than they did last time.
They do. This time, though, they do have a really clear priority in the top lane. In terms of bot lane, I feel like it's again Tristana's just going to try and farm. Syndra's going to look for a Scatter the Weak on Victor, and then Trade Me KFC is going to come in with the Pike, because that's something we haven't really talked about. The Pike in the we've talked about the Pike in the hands of Mighty Boosh in the 1st game, was banned away the 2nd game, but it really is Trade Me KFC also puts a lot of importance on this. If he can get the roams off, he can make the plays in the mid game, then that can snowball really well. I feel like if the Brawlers get the snowball on again, they can win. If they fall behind and they try to scale, I don't think they're going to win this one.
It's certainly going to be, this is, as a very wise man once said, this is going to be all about who wants it more. And right now, the Arrows showed that in the last game. They've had the Taric taken away from them coming here into Game 3. They've replaced that with the Lulu. Now, in some ways, it brings you some of that safety that the Taric does. You don't have that that channel time for the Cosmic Radiance. Instead, you can just use the Wild Growth on one champion who's in trouble. But there's also not that nice buying of time that the Cosmic Radiance gives. The well-timed ultimates last time allowed for some pretty near perfect fights on the side of the Arrows. They're not going to have that this time. They're going to have to adapt a lot better.
They do. Again, I want to see, because Novus, but last time he got a mid lane over a top lane ready, he was comfortable in. Completely demolished Arrow. Like, it wasn't even close. He was having a really good game. The 2nd game, though, on the Mundo, saw some suspect things, not doing that well in the top lane. Of course, Xdrag also giving a kill over to his lane opponent early on, which really tilted it into his opponent's favour. And then, on the other hand, if you look at how well we've seen the bot lane perform thus far, once they can get ahead, once Resurrection can get those kills, it's really, really looking good. But this time, I don't expect them to. Like, unless Pike is going to completely, like, hit every single bone skewer, there's not that much room for them to win these 2v2s, because they really shouldn't. With Lulu, Xayah, they should, like, try and get poked. They should play defensively. If you try to go for an engagement, you're going to get punished. And Pike just wants to roam. If they can get those roams off, it's going to work out great, but they need to get these early objectives.
Going back to Novice Bot up in the top lane, he's had 2 almost polar opposite games. He's had the Scion, where he was playing the sort of the big meaty tank, but he was able to harass the Bruiser in the lane. I believe it was Aurelia that time round. Became a completely unstoppable force. In the last game, took the Mundo, not quite able to make the early plays. You could see he wanted to. He was close. He was a flash or so away from being able to secure a first blood a couple of times. But at the end of the day, the Mundo just did so very little. He's completely flipped the back of the book and gone, right, what can we have now? And gone, Renekton. And it is a completely different champion, but it is equally a champion that can bully in a massive way. And if he gets a kill or 2 early on, could change the game completely. That being said, my attention is all in one place, and that is on Xtrigger. He has had 2 very, very average to poor games by his standards, which can be very, very high. He's now picking up a different style champion, not getting the duelist, which he's had in the last 2 games, going with the Sejuani, with that extra bit of tankiness, that extra bit of safety. Hopefully with that layered CC, he's going to be able to bring big things to his team if the Brawlers are to achieve success in this series.
And last time, Piskas wasn't really punished because he got an early double and snowballed very well from there. They tried to make a play with a hero's entrance here and there, but just wasn't enough from the side of the Brawlers. This time, though, Scattered Weak, in combination with Arctic Assault and, of course, Laser Prison, once they finally get it, is incredibly scary to face as Victor. I think I saw him go for Barrier again, especially if he goes for Barrier as opposed to, say, something like a Cleanse. Playing against a Sejuani can backfire real fast.
Alrighty, well, if you are tuning in and you're a particularly large fan of birds or holy people, I'm glad to tell you that the Nighthawks versus the Saints will be brought to you right at the end of the conclusion of this current series, but this one is more for the Robin Hood fans out there. This is the Brawlers taking on the Arrows in the 3rd game of tonight's series. Both of these teams desperately wanted to get a win. If the Arrows manage it, they will go to 1 and 2 in the standings, finally picking up their first win of the Long Arena Clash. Meanwhile, the Bristol Brawlers looking to pick up this win, so they go 2 and 1. They climb themselves closer to the top of the table, and it does look like once again the 2 ships will pass in the night as their teams are going to very different parts of the jungle.
Yeah, this time though, the bot side team is not making too big of a movement, and if they go through the brush, they might pick Piskas here, and he doesn't know, he's not aware, and I feel like they should be able to at least force a flash here, but because of the fact that Trademark AC isn't leading their charge, that Bone Skewer goes wide, and they don't pick up even a flash for their troubles, and the cleanse is picked up here by Piskas, which I really love. Without it, I feel like it would have been easy cannon fodder for X-Trigger and Lisa Kill. Instead, gonna be a little bit more tough. And the top lane, again, Novice bot, which with a lovely Renekton skin. I want to see him do well. I know that when he does well, the Bristol Brawlers are able to make these plays, and on the back of that pressure that they had in the side lane, they were able to make a lot of things work a lot better, as opposed to the second game when it just kept over engaging, and it's just not really working out. The Pyke also means that they can't really do that. Like, either you get a good roam on, or you can't get it off, as opposed to Galio, where you just charge in.
So with 2 minutes not quite up on the clock just yet, the early trades coming in, the red buff secured by both their junglers, I'm going to give you the opportunity to reverse your prediction from earlier on. You said, we both said at the beginning of the day, the Brawlers were going to be taking this series, especially based on kind of the Game 1 drafts and the way that things were looking in the standings coming into the series. The Arrows showed something entirely different and a level of dominance that we hadn't seen before tonight. Do you want to swap over and say that you think the Arrows are going to take this series, or are you sticking behind the Brawlers?
I'm sticking with the Brawlers. I think that game number 2 showcased a really big weakness in how to execute their games. I also feel like their current draft is not nearly as susceptible to that, although Novusbot needs to be really careful because he's walking straight into a gank.
Alrighty, so what we are going to see is that gank not really coming much to pass. You're sticking with the Brawlers, and in the interest of equality, I think I'm going to turn and I'm going to flip-flop like a fizz on its trident, and I'm going to go with the Arrows to take this series to pick up their first win in Arena Clash. Because you know what? You're very good at getting predictions wrong, so I think if I back the opposite thing, I'm going to be fine.
I feel like we should keep a running tally to see who's actually wrong more often than not, because you've said this before, and it makes me feel a little bit sad when I, see and realise how many times you say, Nicola, he never gets his prediction right. And it's alright, it might be the truth, but I'd like some cold, hard facts to back that up. And I don't think you have those at the moment, Greyheart.
I can confirm that actually you get it wrong all of the time.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I have no response to that.
Yeah,
100%
of the time you
every
get it wrong
single
all
time.
of the time.
Yeah. Well, that's awkward for me then. Good stats.
Let's see if that's going to turn around tonight, and if the Brawlers can do you proud. X-Trigger will certainly be helping to lead them on right now. He's just taken away his Gromp, a really key part of his jungle.
Yeah, it's not as key as Krugs, which I'd say is like the most underrated and overperforming jungle camp in terms of like how happy you are when you take Krugs, as opposed to Raptors, where you're like, I like them better when they were still Wraiths, which is many moons ago. as Novasbot
you
tries
know
to
what?
look for something here.
I reckon the blue buff and the red buff, they've been lonely for a fair while. Remember when the Sentinels used to have their little friendos?
Oh, yeah.
They took them away. It's like taking some puppies away from its mum.
Isn't it sad?
Really cruel and
And the
really quite unpleasant.
junglers are already sad because, better jungler wins, and then if you lose every time, every game, it's your fault. So
You'd be shocked how often I hear that.
Oh, I am not shocked.
No, not even a little bit.
No, not even a little bit. Because this is the cool thing about League of Legends, right? It's like, it's not really about who's better. It's about who can flame the rest of the team better. It's like, that's the real key ski set. Clans are still available here.
Oh, the dash goes wide because of the way that Victor had positioned himself, and the Scat of the Week actually driving Victor to safety, but I'm not entirely sure he's going to be able to get away. The flash is going to be not enough to take away a turret shot. What are you thinking, Laserkill? Not only do you not get the kill with your Flash Ignite, you give over first kill to that man Piscis. Now in the bot lane, the flash is being forced away by Lulu, having to get out of trouble as the Pyke had managed to do a decent job with the Bone Skewer. What just happened in the mid lane? It feels like Piscis is constantly underestimated and constantly fighting back.
Still had the clans available to cleanse away that unfortunate ignite they're coming out from Laserkill. Yeah, Arctic Assault doesn't hit. You say it's Scared of the Weak hits. Arctic Assault doesn't, and it's just a little bit of damage that they needed there. Dan Laserkill goes in really aggressively, wanting to secure the kill, gives up first blood. And this is what I want to see from Novasbot, is already 10 CS up, or will be after this wave is done, and he gets his first solo kill. Has to use his flash for it, and Turo has the flash, which is an advantage. But Novasbot getting ahead, with this Renekton becoming big, as we know that Renekton's going to do, give him another kill, and he's just going to 1v2 every single person that comes to his lane, is what the Bristol Brawlers need, because looking at Laserkill here, he's trying to do Echo things on a champion that is most decidedly not Echo.
Yeah, it was such a sort of sad, complete polar opposite to a layering of CC there, as the Scat of the Week was actually what knocked the Victor out of X-Trigger's knock-up. In the end, that was enough to help Victor save his life. I don't think he even used the cleanse to get out of trouble in that fight either, so he's still got that summoner spell available, whereas Laserkill is not going to have that ignite up for a little while. Still, decent trades of damage, as Laserkill will be able to get that unleashed power on level 6 very, very shortly.
And that means there's still some pressure here, although the clans is going to make it a lot easier here for them. Vitamin really low on mana, really halfway through his health bar, but it doesn't matter too much as he is comfortably back in now. And it's really this top lane that we're looking towards for the Bristol Brawlers. Xtrager thus far not having a great impact, but based on the past 2 games, Robster is going to be the bigger man in the jungle. Laserkill doing well when he can snowball, but giving up an early kill to Piscis has shown to not work out very well, and a 10 CS gold disadvantage here in the bot lane. All of these things mean that the Bristol Brawlers are not looking too good, but fortunately there is Novasbot in the top lane, as we see that there might be just a free Ocean Drake here. No vision, no priority from the jungler given to this objective, and not even some pings going down. We saw them do this the first time as well with the Baron. This time it's the Dragon that got picked up for free by the arrows.
Robster's done this over and over again. He really favours these neutral objectives. He's taken almost every single key one in the last couple of games, and now he has the potential to turn his attention down to the bottom lane. Surely the respect will be paid, but no, that's a polymorph. That's the dash away from the Pyke and managing to stun up the Lulu. Look at the damage coming through. The rocket jump, the heal is enough to keep Lulu alive as she flashes away. Here comes the Graves. The re-engage is big from the side of the Nottingham Arrows as Xayah tries to chase down the Pyke. Not going to be able to, but Graves looking to pick up his first kill of the game. Easily does it against Resurrection. Meanwhile, the ultimate was used by Sejuani in the top lane, managing to stop Terra 911Z, and that's going to be Xtrigger picking up his first kill in this game. Both of the junglers in action in polar opposite lanes, but both of them getting the same result.
Yeah, but an Infernal or Ocean Drake rather getting picked up, and more importantly, the kill didn't go to Novasbot. I felt like I wanted to give it to him there as well. Tried to set it up, but not able to do so. Nice turret shot tanked up by Robster, but it doesn't matter because no one is around. And even if they would, there was no objective available for them to really contest. Blade's getting picked up here, and Novasbot is reaching a point, even without him picking up the kill there, where he's just going to completely make Terra irrelevant in this game, and that's what they're looking for here as the Brawlers. Once Novasbot starts roaming, and maybe if they get a kill on top of a lesser kill as well, is when they can start turning this fight around.
I assume that the Null Magic Mantle that is there for the Cho'Gath is in aid of getting Merc Treads as soon as possible, getting that extra little bit of tenacity, but it's certainly not helping to deal with this Renekton. And having only picked up that Glacial Shroud for a little bit of armor so far, it's Cho having a really, really rough time. Down 20 CS, having died 2 times, a kill and assist to the lane opponent, and this is the opportunity for Novusbot to do what he did in Game 1 and just become an unstoppable force.
Because if you look at the side lanes, there's not a lot of people that are going to be able to match him. Lasagil, not a lot of mana. There's the Arctic Assault. This time they time it perfectly, but the cleanse is available.
Oh, a lot of damage being put down to Lasagil. Did not burn the flash. In fact, I don't think he quite had it up, so lucky to be able to survive the Chaos Storm. Meanwhile, Victor still not having burned the flash, only using the cleanse to step away from the Sejuani there.
And we see that Trade Me KFC was going to go for a little bit of a roam there, and there's still the opportunity here for Xtrigger. Almost at the Glacian Prison available to him as he picks up the Crux there. And with the roam coming out as well, a Bone Skewer here might lead to some things, but a Great Battle Recall means that they can't do that much here. When Xtrigger visits the bot lane though, that might turn it around as they are shoved up to the turret here.
Alrighty, ultimate is available for Xtrigger now as he looks to come around the outside, looking for the potential flank. The dash forward now for Trade Me. KFC throws down the Bone Skewer, manages to pick it up. On Desire immediately throws out the Featherstorm, the rocket jump in from the Tristana. Sejuani is here, still holding the ultimate, waiting for the perfect opportunity. Resurrection able to pick up 1 kill. Now potentially looking for the Lulu. The Glacial Fissure thrown down, flashed away by Lulu, already having lost her ADC, not prepared to give up her life as well. Meanwhile, we are going to see Graves joining in the bot lane, but he is too late to save the ADC and get that kill away from Resurrection. Now we're going to see whether or not he's able to scale up on this Tristana in the same way he did that Sivir.
Yeah, and Lulu says no to Prison. Mighty Boosh flashes out nicely there, but damn, Trademark KFC can't get caught there. And that's another pickup there for Robster, and he keeps getting away with these throwaway kills, just randomly given up from overextension from the Brawlers, so they're making the same mistake we saw them make in the earlier games. The question is, can they not fall behind? Because what we also see is the Brawlers living up to their name. Even if they do fall behind, they're going to keep going through these brawls, but if they can get Novusbot in on one of these fights, once he finishes that Black Cleaver, once he picks up that top lane turret, I think he's going to be an absolute menace. But then the rest of his team needs to not be too far behind. Now 20 CS in the mid lane, 2 kills up on Robster is not looking too good for the rest of his game.
I really wish that I'd kept track of the exact KDA that Robster had got on the previous 2 games of Graves, because add to that the 2-0 that he is on this 3rd game, and he's been having a fantastic night of it. That champion's not been banned or taken away from him once, and he's shown that he can consistently perform on it, and it's been one of the main driving forces for these Arrows.
Yeah, it is. We see Taro basically just standing underneath his turret, and this is one of the problems for me as well. Xtrigger is not able to really use that priority that I have in the top lane to like pick up a Rift Herald, because mid lane is having such a rough go here.
Graves completely flanking the Syndra, who decides to flash away, not even using the Unleashed power to try and zone away the Victor or the Graves. Meanwhile, Sejuani comes in, takes a little bit of the CS away from Sejuani, who's just having to recall to safety, having a really, really bad time. 25 CS down on the Victor.
Yeah, and the push there, aided by Robster as Syndra, like you said, has it back, some blue plates getting picked up there, but here's Pyke with the Bone Skewer looking for a kill. 2 versus 2, jungler and mid laner versus jungle and support, but Lulu is here to outbalance things in favour of the Arrows, and immediately that's disengage coming out of the Pyke, threw out a Bone Skewer and then got out of dodge. Not balance, outbalance. I love that, because Mighty Boosh's appearance there would have completely turned the fight around in their favour. And look at that, even with a Glacial Shroud, the damage that Novusbot can do right now is absolutely dirty. But it's not enough, and this is what I keep going back to, because it's good that he wins these trades, but Cho'Gath will sustain, and they need to actually do something with it.
Oh, Syndra, you just walked into a bush full of Graves. 8 collateral damage to the face. Meanwhile, the fight's going on in the bot lane as Sejuani tries to impact once more, this time throwing the ult backwards right onto the Xayah, who immediately throws in the Featherstorm. It's going to be Xayah trying to dash away as Lulu steps back in, getting a decent bit of damage on Tristana, who's burning down lower. But look at the damage being poured onto the Xayah. She throws out the blades one last time, but the feathers are not enough. Resurrection picks up 1 kill. Sejuani gets the 2nd. Graves dashes in, gets himself his 4th kill of the game. Meanwhile, here comes Victor. There's no rocket jump available for Tristana. She is running as fast as her little Yordle legs can carry her. It's not fast enough. The Tristana's dead.
That's a very anticlimactic ending to what looked like a good play, then a bad play, and then a good play again from the Arrows. Because the Brawlers, first they go for a nice gank. As you say, Lasagil just gets completely deleted. again, Robster being pivotal in his team's win here, or in his team's positive objective play here. But then the bot lane, like the focus fire from the Brawlers just baffles me, because they go in for the Lulu, then all of a sudden they turn around, throw the Glacial Prison on a still Feather Storm available Xayah out, and promptly uses that, and like eventually they get them, but they give so much time to Robster to find his way.
Oh, this is going to be, this is without himself having any flash, but his lovely little footwork there means that despite the Ignite, despite the attention of Pyke and Syndra, he's able to step himself to safely. Victor having one of the biggest impacts of any of the champions in this series so far.
And that unleashed power, the wild growth is there. It's not enough. I thought it was going to be, and as did you, I think, Greyheart. But in the end,
perfectly timed from Mighty Boosh.
This time, Xdraiger though having a good performance on the Sejuani, and looking at these two cheating oppositions, the mid lane matchup is really this Echo game really put it into a wrong perspective for us, because it felt like Lasakil was just completely outclassing Piskis, who was 0-7 on the rise, but he's come back in such a meaningful way. Doing a great job on the Victor, has no cleanse now, so still needs to fear those ganks. And Resurrection, also in the first game, like these players gave us a certain idea, and then completely turned that idea on its head in game 2 and 3, which I think is also why it's going to be so hard to call. Now though, the arrows are ahead. Traditionally, once they've been ahead, things work out very well for them.
Turret plating has fallen off. No first turret has dropped down, but Victor consistently able to pressure with those enhanced auto attacks, and it is going to mean that quite possibly that first turret goal will be going over to the arrows. Meanwhile, yet another fight happening in the bottom lane. We see the Feather of the Storm being used by Xayah. She keeps herself safe. Meanwhile, Renekton doing his very best to continue pushing, but despite it all, now Cho'Gath starting to get tanky. He's a bit of CS behind, but he's relevant in this game.
Yeah, and Novasbot, as we said, like, yes, it's good. Yes, he was able to exert a lot of pressure. But if he doesn't pick up like 1 or 2 kills in the next team fight, I don't know if it really matters that much. Like a 20 CS gold advantage for your Renekton is not really what you're looking for. Ooh. And you were hoping for the bounce queue, and so was I, because that might have turned things around. But looks like TradeMe KFC not having the greatest game in the Galio, and also the Pyke not working out as well as one might hope or expect if you're a Brawlers fan.
Yeah, we're 16 minutes in and there's no real completed item there for the Pyke. Just that burn stopwatch in his pocket to say, at least I tried.
And didn't he try very hard?
I don't remember.
That's not what I was looking for, Stan.
Sorry, Maris, but it's just the truth. And the truth is that right now you've picked the wrong team, because the arrows are going big. They're looking for yet more kills. But here come the Brawlers doing their very best to help your prediction game. Sejuani throws down the ultimate despite the wild growth. Tristana is able to pick up the kill onto the Grave. Now the rocket jump reset is here, looking for the damage onto the Lulu. She's trying to get herself to safety, but TradeMe KFC with the death from below is going to be able to secure yet another kill. Guess what? That means a rocket jump reset. That means a buster shot. That means a boom, boom, boom. Resurrection with a second kill in quick succession.
And thank you for caster cursing the Brawlers, because I was getting a little bit worried here that they were actually just going to fold. Yes, you did, because now Resurrection basically has 5 kills thanks to the death from below pick up there from TradeMe KFC. Completely turn around this fight. The way that they weren't able to do the first time, are going to be able to pick up the first turret of the game here. And more importantly, the gold again is on Resurrection. We see that Novasbot is ahead, Resurrection is ahead, and last time that was really enough for the Brawlers to make their game work. Of course, Lasakil then also was ahead, which isn't the case now, but I'm going to take Xdraiger's Sejuani performance as a hopeful note that the Brawlers will in the end be able to clinch this third game here in the best of 3. But let's be honest, the Arrows, still a great performance. Robster is still a threat to be reckoned with. It's really the bot lane that's having a little bit of a rough go, because Piskis again here doing just admirably on the Victor.
Fighting Man hasn't had the best of games so far on Xayah, much like in game 1. Right now, Renekton might find himself in a little bit of trouble. Graves throws down that smoke screen, and here comes the Lulu. The polymorph is not quite in range, and so we aren't going to see that happen, but we are going to see a nice nom 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 feast time for Tero, managing to get himself a kill back and getting bigger by the minute. Meanwhile, Piskis did manage to take that mid lane turret, and he is going to be able to defend this one against the fed Tristana. Meanwhile, the Bone Skewer comes in, but I'm not entirely sure if you've bitten off a little bit more than you can chew there, little Pikey, and he's going to have to run himself away.
Yeah, Frozen Heart does a lot in completely negating a Pyke who doesn't really have a damage item build whatsoever. Wild Grave's not available, but this top lane turret might fall on the next wave. Here we go again, though. Piskers, did he bite off more than he can chew?
Oh, his cleanse was perfectly timed, getting himself away from the Glacial Fissure that comes in. That means a turnaround of the kills. A really, really nice play there from Piskis, who has been absolutely phenomenal. The quick footwork there, saving his life, picking up a kill, and once again turning the balance of this game over to the Nottingham Arrows.
Resurrection died there with a flash, and a heal still available, and that's not something that you want to have happen. They keep underestimating Piskis' damage
That
here.
was incredible play from him, really. Oh, look at the damage coming in here. It's going to be Tero yet again getting a feast. Trade me KFC dropping down. Pyke is now 1, 3, and 3. Not getting that execute damage, but I'll tell you who has got a lot of damage. It's Robster. He flashes forward. He picks up a kill onto the Renton. It's going to be a flash from the Cho'Gath trying to get the Rupture onto Sejuani, but with her Aftershock, she's going to be able to dash herself to safety. This turret may not be quite so lucky, though. Sejuani stepping back in, trying to defend it as much as possibly can, but getting caught out by the Gravity Field. The Rupture knocks up. Robster picks up another kill. 6, 1, and 2 on the Graves. I told you the Arrows were going to take it.
Every time one of us has said that the team's going to take it, we spoke too soon. Resurrection is looking for it. I want him to jump in there. They're not standing on top of War, but is he going to go for it?
Buster shot's not enough, and the flash
so
is burned.
Close. Oh no! Lulu's available, and the Frozen Heart as well means that burst damage isn't going to make it work. Like this time, they do respect Piskis, and Mighty Booch is there as well. But I feel like there was a brief window there where the Brawlers were just doing a really good job finding these opportunities, but now looks like the Arrows are still firmly in control of this game.
And all the while Xayah was split pushing in the bot lane. She wasn't even a part of that fight, but getting a little bit of damage down, securing a decent amount of CS, actually overtaking the Tristana in CS now, which is certainly going to be a big boom for her. And another thing that will definitely help is if she can get an Infernal Dragon in her pocket. And with this one already being started up and completed with the feast from Cho'Gath, before Sejuani can even get in range, a third Drake now, an Ocean, a Mountain, and most importantly an Infernal, all going over to the Nottingham Arrows.
And it seems like I've once again cursed a team with my expectations, Dan, because it's not looking good for the Bristol
Do you want to
Brawlers.
maybe say the Rift Scuttle's going to win the next game?
I kind of want to look back and take a gander at to what extent I'm actually always 100% of the time wrong, but looking at these kind of games, I feel like I might be cursed.
You might well be, and so might the Bristol Brawlers, but this time they're able to step away, and that's beautiful layering of CC. The Wild Growth not enough to keep the victor alive as Sejuani Syndrome finally getting a kill with the Unleashed Power. Meanwhile, Renton looks like he's going to drop down, making a 1-for-1 across the board, but there's a decent bit of pressure here in the mid lane as 4 members of the Bristol Brawlers look to secure themselves this outer turret.
And that shutdown is really important because Lassakil was about to not really be a factor in this game anymore. First turret gets picked up, and I'm not going to be surprised if the second one falls as well. And we keep coming back to Resurrection. He is one of the linchpins here. Xtriger having a little bit of a rough go. Nice Assault in there, but not enough for him. And I feel like this fight is going to get turned around as well.
Oh, Graves just has so very much damage, and there's Cho'Gath again, hasn't actually used the feast, and now he can step onto the Pyke, completely demolishing him. Lulu managing to pick up that kill into Portal Combat. Meanwhile, Fighterman even getting in on the action, getting his first kill of the game. Meanwhile, a double kill for the Robster means it's 8, 1, and 3, and it means a Baron's on the table, and there's a Cho'Gath who wants to feast on it. But he can't because he's got cooldowns.
Yeah, I mean, he's still going to feast on it metaphorically, right?
Hypothetically.
Figuratively. Because they're going to get it.
Literally, because they wait for another 30 seconds or so for that cooldown so he can get the stack.
Ooh, that'd be good.
But it's not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It didn't happen.
It would be cool.
You've let us down, Arrows.
I'm the one being let down here because I do feel like the Brawlers were having a great game, but what we saw happen there was a little bit of an overcommittal towards trying to get that middle lane turret, and then more importantly splitting up, and this is something that the Brawlers have been doing again and again and again. I feel like Piskis finally is going to die here, eventually.
Purely overextending here, and the teleport of course can't be cancelled. This does mean that Cho'Gath goes into the middle of 5 people. It doesn't matter how meaty he is, he's going to drop down.
What?
That gives shutdown gold over to the Syndra, and that Nottingham Arrows just completely threw 2 Baron buffs.
Yeah, that's important Baron buffs as well, right? Like that's people
so
that
crucial.
you want them to have. Yeah, so just as I was giving the Bristol Brawlers a hard time for having some miscommunication, Nottingham Arrows says, hey, you can also not communicate well.
Us?
Yeah.
They're really good at not communicating sometimes. And right now it looks like Graves is going to get caught out. We're going to see the Wild Growth used onto the Graves, trying to defend this inhibitor turret. How often do you see this? That the team that has not got the Baron buff are the ones who are closer to knocking down a key structure. Zyra is continuing her split push in the bot lane. I think she thinks she's Nasus.
Wait, how does that work? Like Xayah and Nasus, am I missing a connection there?
Well, it's just the constant split pushing, not being with the team.
That's who you think about, Nasus? Not like Jax or something that's actually good? Nasus?
No, I've had a lot of bad experiences with Nasai in the time.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
surely
can
the plural.
imagine. Yeah? Yeah, it has to be. I mean, can there be multiple Nasai? I mean, in terms of like the game, yeah, but in terms of like actual... There should only be one, right? Like, it's just, that's him, and there can't be more.
I think that's the... You know what? I think you've just put your finger on the reason why I never want to do normal games and only ever do draft mode. I don't want to see the same champion because
It'd be so
literally in
confusing.
lore it's not possible. Short of maybe
It's like two
LeBlanc.
Shens. It doesn't make sense.
OMG, two Shens.
Yeah.
Though
Yeah,
I
you
have
can
been,
make sense of
that
that.
is one thing that I have been enjoying about Silas, though. Meanwhile, let's have a little look at what's going to happen to Victor. Guess what? Nothing good, because X-Trigger's managed to pick up that kill. Graves does get a retort, and that's going to be onto Tristana. And with a huge amount of the damage gone from the Brawlers, it's going to be the re-engage from the Nottingham Arrows. Fighter-Man finally joining his team. Nasus has joined the fight. I mean, Zyra has joined the fight. In goes the Graves, looking for the kill onto Syndra, who's running away, but not going to be out running Robster anytime soon. This could be a game-winning push coming through from the still Baron-empowered members of the Nottingham Arrows.
Tanking a lot, though.
Well, he's just zoning. This is zoning play coming through. It's going to be Renekton caught out. Robster with the damage. Zyra shooting those blades through the heart of the Crocodile. And this time, Featherlady comes up big. The inhibitor is going to drop down. Will the push continue from the Nottingham Arrows? It looks like they might have the damage to try and end this game out right here, right now. But Graves says, no, guys, we're leaving.
Yeah, pick up a free dragon. You know, pick up... I mean, not Baron, because that's about to run out on you, so he's going to wait at least like 2 minutes more before that's showing up again. Again, I can't believe that Piskis, after we give him all this credit, just gets caught out twice at the same time. This time the team is there to follow up, so they're able to still get the inhibitor out of that.
That was a bait, you see.
Yeah, definitely. Just give up your main damage dealer. I mean, let's be honest, Robster at this point is the main damage dealer. That man on Graves is an absolute tower, and he's having a really good game here. Also, Fighter Man staying alive for an extended amount of time, meaning that we still have a lot of dependable damage here, and it feels like Toro is doing a lot, but I imagine it's just like him soaking up so much, and the fact that he's so big, making it so hard to hit anyone.
Yeah, you literally can't get past that character model at the moment. Really, really difficult to deal with. But right as we are, again, saying that Pisk is not doing quite so well, guess what? He turns all the damage round and he completely 1 versus 1s a Renekton. How often do you see that? Victor just obliterating Renekton, and right now he is going to be sent back to the fountain. He's going to respawn in a little while, and it's going to be another turret dropping down, this time in favour of Victor. But now we're going to see Sejuani and Pyke seeing if they can do anything. They absolutely can't touch him without the damage of Syndra and Tristana.
And this game, again, we saw the Brawlers having some moments here and there, and then making a couple of calls that just don't go very well, and the Arrows just roll with it and do so in incredible fashion here. I keep getting excited for these plays, and then the communication just isn't there, and this is the core issue to me with the Brawlers, is they're close, they're looking for these opportunities, but they just can't find them reliably.
This time the communication was there, but the Wild Growth followed by the cleanses enough to keep Victor not only alive, but exceptionally healthy. Cho'Gath has randomly just walked into the base and say, hi guys, I'm here, I'm going to throw out a few ruptures, just to deal the damage. I've got a feast if any of you gets low enough, and it's going to force the Brawlers to turn their attention to it. This is going to be a fight fought on multiple sides as the double knock-up lands onto both Syndra and onto Pyke. Piskis comes in and absolutely obliterates the Pyke's health bar. Graves gets himself one to Renekton, and this surely will be the end of the game. The Unleashed power comes through, but it's featherstormed away beautifully by Fighter-Man, who gets the kill to Syndra. A return of kills as Tristana doing her very best, but she is going to have to get a pentakill if this game is to go on any longer. She's doing her absolute best, jumping over the rupture, finding the double kill, this time onto the Cho'Gath. Now Tristana with the jump reset, looking possibly to try and get the kill. The flash, the triple kill, the flash, the rocket jump forward, the damage going through. The Wild Growth is going to stop the 4th kill coming in. Now this is the duel against the massively fed Robster, and guess what? That's the end of the line for the the Tristana. She's going to drop down. The second Nexus turret is already on its last legs. Pyke's going to try and dash forward, not quite getting executive damage down, but still managing to get Lulu nonetheless. Robster, the phenomenal beast of the Nottingham Arrows, is doing his very best to end the game right now. He's got a Guardian Angel. The minions are coming in as well. Look at these final couple of hits. There are 5 members of the Bristol Brawlers. They take the Guardian's Angel away, and they finally shut down the mighty Graves, but the damage has been done.
And that went on for way longer than I figured it would have when we saw everyone die on the side of the Bristol Brawlers, but Nottingham Arrows. A little bit of overzealous committal there. Toro, in particular, tanking 2 turrets for a very long amount of time. And, of course, well played there by Resurrection. Is this going to be enough? I feel like with the 2 inhibitors still down, it might very well not be, especially with Baron being available now. And looking how fast the Bristol Brawlers get demolished there, how many turret shots it took for them to get an even footing in that fight. I still don't think it's looking very well for them, but maybe if we see a Dragon or a Baron steal here rather, we can completely turn it around. There's still an 8k gold lead, 4 dragons ahead, a number of kills, 10 turrets to fall, so the sky isn't falling here, especially if Xdrager is not careful and gets taken down here, but he goes for the engagement.
He goes to the engagement, he gets completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Renter goes as well, trying to shut down the Victor, but in the end it's a double kill coming through from the mid laner of the Nottingham Arrows. The artists formerly known as Alter looking to secure their first win here in the Belonga Arena for this split, and it looks like they'll be able to do it because a delayed triple kill is going to be here, and it is going to be enough for the side of the Arrows to just walk down the mid lane, to step themselves right up to Nexus turret, to pad their KDA, and to say, we are taking this series against the Brawlers.
Well, I want to believe in the Pyke Panther, but I don't think it's coming, Stan.
You know what? I think you might be right there, Chronicler, and this is the game ending. 30 minutes just off the clock. Fighterman gets the last kill, making his 4-4-11 KDA look exceptionally positive for someone who spent most of the time away from the team. But at the end of the day, it was a story about a Graves. He just completely decimated in this series.
Yeah, Robster, I don't have anything to add to that. Just incredible game from him. Doing so well in all 3 of these games. Even the game where they lost, his KDA was impeccable.
So how does it feel
to be wrong again?
Backing the Brawlers.
It's something that has
you get to share their
me.
pain, whereas
yeah.
I enjoy the jubilation that the Arrows are feeling right now.
I'm always happy when it's a good league.
I'm always happy when I beat you. So we're going to jump pretty much straight into our next game because we have got some more quality League of Legends to bring you tonight. Again, a fantastic game coming in from the Nottingham Arrows, who take that series 2-1 against the Brawlers. They are now 1-2 in the series, as are the Bristol Brawlers. In the group. That's Group 3. They find themselves a little bit off the pace, but with a win like that, they may still be able to make a push near the end of the season. It's time for the Norfolk Nighthawks and the Cardiff Saints. So let's show the lineups. We're going to have Cocky Fella up in the top. I'm not sure if he's the top laner, but he's at the top of that list. Harsho, Heptic, Nightmare, Shady Mo, Mox, and the Unsinkable 28 rounding off that team.
And the other, we've seen him before here at the Belong Arena Clash stream, the Cardiff Saints, Howlsey, and the Sovanix, One Fox, and Mulgrew J. And last time, if I remember correctly, it was a 3rd game, best of 3, which was in the end hard carried by Identum, who was able to just do unspeakable things on a top lane carry.
Alright, we have seen the teams and we are able to bring you some news straight in with what's going to be coming in from the picks and the bans, because there was some interesting little moving around with the old proxy system. So I can tell you that the side of Norfolk decided to ban Oriana, Fiora, LeBlanc and Lysandra, as has just been shown.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
nice.
Twisted Fate, Alistair, Vladimir, Gangplank and Thresh were banned away by the Cardiff Saints. This all led to the teams being drafted as you see them. So we're going to have the Norfolk Nighthawks displaying a Kled in the top lane with a Nunu as the jungler, Azir in the mid lane, and the bot lane duo of Sivir and Tahm Kench.
And looking at these matchups here, so we have a skill, this is really fun for us to cast because you have a skill matchup in the top lane, you have quite a cool matchup in the jungle, and then as I go down, I'm like, oh wait, no, Sivir, Tahm Kench, nothing's happening there, Azir versus Zeref, nothing's happening there. So my enthusiasm was a little bit preemptive, although Caleb Morgana should still try and look for some action, try to win that lane, because if you don't win lane with Caleb Morgana, you're not really doing what you want to do with those 2 picks, as they just get the push, get the plates, get the harassment down, and then skill from there, rotate. Like, Caitlyn compositions are as old as the champion itself, where you just abuse her early game, just snowball, get over your awkward mid game, and then into the late.
There's a few champions that we've seen earlier in the night. Obviously, that Sivir, notable there for the side of Norfolk. But also we're getting a few new things. We're going to get ourselves a Kled in the top lane. I'm going to get to say charge in a really funny voice. Meanwhile, both of the teams are setting themselves up on the bottom half of the map. All 5 members of the Saints are united in running themselves straight down to the Tribush, where they may well find Tahm Kench and Sivir. Tahm Kench going to face check straight into that one. He's taking a little bit of damage, and now he's taking the long way round, forcing the flash out of the TK at level 1.
That's a great start. Cleanse has been taken there by Harsho. Of course, considering you're playing against a Morgana, the Dark Binding, it can quite feel like forever, to be really honest, so I don't blame him for going for the cleanse there. Having to flash there is kind of unfortunate, but if not, he would have probably had to cleanse and flash. This time we do see Pizza Sivir skin, but no Galio.
There's no Galio throwing down the KFC. There's only the chicken in the mid lane. What? It's as it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't have a good retort to that. And what did you call Kled then? I mean, Nunu's a Yeti. Oh, sorry.
Willem's a
Yeti.
Yeti.
Nunu is the kid.
Yeah.
But what do you call Kled?
Monster on a chocobo.
I love that. Yeah, that works for me.
He's such a horrible, disgusting little champion.
Then you also have threatening Void Queen Rek'Sai, who just wants to, I don't know, like everyone from the Void just wants to completely obliterate the world, right? That's pretty much their law.
Well, that's what Cho'Gath did in the last game. So.
Yeah, that's true. He did it very well.
Really did.
We didn't really pay that much attention to.
Couple of great games.
But I feel like his performance was quite inspiring, and Identium last time we saw him having a really good performance here. I need to be careful though, because if Kled gets ahead in this matchup, it is very, very oppressive. Same goes the other way around though.
We've already seen how things can go quite badly for an Aurelia in lane if she gets bullied out, and we're going to see whether or not Identium is able to do a better job of things than we saw earlier on. Meanwhile, we are just having a little look in the bot lane where things are pretty even to start off. Of course, we're going to see that Morgana, who has had a few changes, decided not to ban her out for this week because it's really only a change on the movement speed towards champions from the ultimate in comparison to the real dramatic change for Kayle. But nonetheless, we're going to get to see whether or not that nice new visual rework is helping the champion out at all.
It does make you feel better when you play it, right? Like, you don't feel like, oh no, look at the black shield, look at how angular it is, look at how, it just doesn't look good. As opposed to when you're playing something like a Kled, where the animations just feel very nice, and vivid, and clean. We see an early CS advantage here for Identium in the top lane. This mid lane, though, is just going to be a whole lot of poke and a whole lot of scaling unless one of the junglers decide to go for something. Something we haven't really paid attention to, but both junglers are very aptly aware of, that we're going for full vertical jungling here, meaning that Fraser Fox is off taking the wolves, taking the Gromp in Nunu's jungle, while Redknapp decides to do the exact same thing on the opposing side.
Are you surprised to see 2 Conquerors coming out of the Cardiff Saints, given just how much of a nerf the Conqueror Keystone has taken in the last patch?
I feel like, yes, it's taken a hit, but both these champions are still going to do what you want them to do. In the case of Rhaegar, snowball incredibly well and exert a lot of pressure, exert a lot of kills, threats if you come to that mid game. While the Rek'Sai, like Rek'Sai's early game, has always been incredibly scary. It's not any different here as we see the top lane game commence.
This is going to be the tunneling in from Fraser Fox, but immediately a sharp dash away as it's going to be Skull taking Kled to safety. The noble steed doing his work there. So in the mid lane, Xerath taking, that was Azir taking a significant amount of poke, but still pushing the Xerath in. Xerath has gone for the minion Dematerializer in this game, so he's going to have that slightly faster push potential as the game gets later and later. Azir, of course, will have the option to rebuild turrets as they fall, but Aurelia looking for a potential engage again. Skarl very, very close to being sent away from Kled for a while. He's going to be dismounted, and Kled now finding himself with just a shotgun to his name.
It always feels bad when you treat your poor little Skull so bad that he chocobos off to an unknown destination and you need to fend off for yourself.
Chocobo Paradise, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, he not that bad, right? Because he comes back. But like Fraser Fox, Scary Void Lady that he's playing currently, is nowhere near. Is making his way towards the top side again now. But that's going to be the real question, whether they're going to fight him or not. And imagine losing that trade that hard there if he doesn't have Skull available. If we would have seen an all-in there from the Identim, that would have gone real bad, real fast.
Didn't have Skull available, had been hit by the stun by Identim, but still, in the end, it was the Unsinkable who did much, much better from that trade. Meanwhile, we see ourselves a big old snowball, but this one's being rolled towards the Scuttles Crab, and that's going to be Nunu making absolute mincemeat of the little fella.
Yeah, Consume and Smite is a nasty combination when it comes to picking up these jungle objectives, especially early on. As we do see some nice poke going down, but 1u1 and Howlsey not able to really secure the kind of lead that I'd like to see, and this snowball is only going to make it worse.
Flash away from the Caitlyn, trying to get out of dodge, and it's Nunu just running away on that nice TPA skin, having already done his work in the bot lane.
And this, for the pace of the game, is relatively slow. We don't see too many crazy pickups, too many fights. We've had games where we've been at 6 minutes and there's already been 6 deaths. None of that in this scenario.
No, nice slow build up, and that's certainly playing into the hands of the Sivir, looking to scale up as much as possible. Identim committing a lot of resources once again, but Skarl still hasn't been sent away. Meanwhile, Aurelia down below half health.
And that's making it really rough for Identim. Maybe a 1-2 await a jungle gank here from Fraser Fox. Doesn't really see anything. It would take a very long time as Identim goes in there again and might have overshot there, but every time I think that Unsinkable doesn't want to take the risk either.
Yeah, we have got Nunu hovering on the bottom, on the top side of the map in his jungle around about the Gromp area. So if he were to run into that Aurelia, it could mean a lot of trouble for Identim. Rek'Sai is backing up though, so let's see whether or not we get this 2 versus 2 breaking out. Kled's going to run down, has got the charge available and has triggered it, trying to join the Nunu, does not have absolute zero available. Fraser Fox already using that, lots of damage coming through, no Void Assault available just yet. The first blood's certainly going to be picked up, but the answer is who by? Well, it's Xerath, of course. He joins the party, makes it a 3 versus 3, and already 1 kill over to the Cardiff Saints mid laner himself. Meanwhile, Skarl comes back at just the right moment, allowing the Unsinkable to stay unsunk, and it's going to be Aurelia dashing forward, trying to catch onto this Azir. The stun will land, the damage is there. Conqueror Aurelia picks up another one. Skarl still so very, very low. Sorry, Kled's so very low, but picks up a kill despite being dismounted. Takes a pelt over Pacemaker? It's called a Pacemaker now to the face, and look how low the Kled is. Skarl's not there anymore, and he's just going to be able to walk away.
And that's a very long skirmish for really not that much to happen. In the end, it's 2 versus 2 trade. The gold is pretty much even. Both top and mid lane has got a kill. And everyone's still relatively even CS. I feel like 1u1 is the only one who's really out of his comfort zone there, and he's missing quite a lot of CS there.
He really, really has. Morgana also having a rough old time under the turret, but now has got the backup of the Rek'Sai and of the Caitlyn. Maximus is going to step forward, getting the kill to Morgana, perhaps realising that the life may have already been forfeit. Tahm Kench using the grey health already, going down to 1 Ewan. Now Maximus using the on the hunt, trying to use the heal to save the Tahm Kench, but in the end using it just a step away from trouble. I think Tahm Kench's flash was available as well. Interesting to see Tahm Kench running the cleanse as well.
Yeah, like we said, Dark Binding makes you feel like you're just stuck waiting for something unfortunate to happen forever, and I was just saying I don't want to deal with that. That kind of negative energy is not something that I need in my life. Instead, I'm just going to run cleanse and completely leave that behind me. I do feel like the Nighthawks, with their current composition, are going to scale much, much better than the Saints. So if the Saints do not start winning these trades instead of going even in them, the Nighthawks are really going to outscale with the Azir, with the tankiness from the Nunu and the Sivir, and Tahm Kench adds a lot of survivability to your comp as well. Where on the other end, the Caitlyn, the Rek'Sai, it's not really things you're looking towards in the late game.
Black Shield manages to stop the knock-up coming through from the Snowball. That's enough for Morgana, and Caitlyn to step away this time. I've just been reminded of a wonderful thing I saw the other day on Twitter. So there was a great post being made, I think it was maybe the Misfits or someone like that, and they said, using one ability name from, the game League of Legends that we love, so much. Maybe Azir not loving it quite so much as he takes that damage from Xerath. Using one ability name, describe your current relationship. There was a lot of sort of things like Absolute Zero. The nicer, more loved up people maybe said Stand United. Most concerning answer, Bear Trap on a Rope.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
I do not have. Yeah, no. That also seems like a very peculiar place to be in inside a relationship. Because I can see the bear trap, right? Like the feeling of being trapped. But then the rope kind of baffles me, as in like trying to figure out like, in what situation would you feel like you're in a bear trap, but the person like. But they're both keeping you trapped, but they also keep you on a distance and like yank at a rope at you, which, you know.
I like that you're as baffled by this as I was.
I kind of want to get to the bottom of this now.
Well, we might have to tweet that person later to find out. One thing that we know for certain is right now, at just past the 10-minute mark, the game is really finely balanced. The gold lead is non-existent, and here comes Rek'Sai trying to change things up. Kled has not been dismounted just yet, and Rek'Sai not going to be able to get the knock-up. Aurelia starting to bully this lane out a little bit more, but might be about to get caught out by the charge and the greatest ever snowball. Here we go. Let's see just who's going to win this 2 versus 2 battle. The tops and the junglers duking things out, and Identum's already picked up the 1 kill. Now we're going to see Nunu in all sorts of trouble. Aurelia gets a double kill, and that could be just what Identum needs to swing this game in the Saints' favour.
And last time we saw Identum getting fat on a top lane carry, it did not end well for the opposing team. This is the first fight, though, that goes decisively in the favour of the Cardiff Saints. The plates getting picked up here, though, is going to really rapidly, like, enlarge that gold lead, because it would look okay, you know, you get 2 kills, double killing your Aurelia, so Identum needs to be really careful not to die, because that would be super awkward. Fortunately for him, does not happen, but the real threat here is, of course, that split push pressure that's going to come out. The fact that Kled, unless he now starts roaming and starts using his ultimate to assist, or rather ask the rest of his team to assist in his hunts, is not going to do that much in that lane. And again, Identum, that split push pressure is going to be so scary. And the fact that you're not doing too well as one Yuanu in the bot lane, or the fact that, you know, it's Rek'Sai. Yeah, I'm actually having an alright game. Fraser Fox with the 4 assists right now, but of course the Rek'Sai is going to fall off more compared to Nunu. It's going to be this top lane, and I feel like we've said that a couple of times here today.
Oh, yet again we're going to see Halsey taking a lot of damage from Maximus as he throws that pizza in and says, you know what, I'm delivering it within 15 minutes, so no refund, and yet again throws another one at Caitlyn for good measure. The damage coming through in this bot lane is so significant. We talked earlier on about how Caitlyn is this bully, oppressive laner. Well, right now she's the one being bullied and oppressed.
Yeah, there's not much she can do. Morgana's doing her best, and they're staying in this lane for quite a long time, which is somewhat risky. Fraser Fox is also fighting together with Redknapp, and top lane. Well, Identum does what Identum does, which is solo kills opposing lane once he has an advantage.
Yep, he had Tiamat, had the Phage, stepped in, and that was the end of the Kled for another 25 seconds. Meanwhile, the damage is going down from all sides as a big duel is happening around this dragon. It is a mounted dragon, and it is being contested exceptionally heavily as Xerath manages to pick up the kill with the snipe onto Azir, who wasn't able to do enough with that Emperor's Divide. Meanwhile, Identum just pushing down, getting turret plates for days. Might even be able to secure this first turret before the turret plating drops off.
And that's 13 minutes into the game. Does have to back off that on that wave. And I don't think he wants to go against Unsinkable right now, but continuously the Saints are out skirmishing the Nighthawks, which is quite admirable. And more importantly, I feel like the Nighthawks rather are now taking some risk where they don't really need to, because yes, their top lane is now close to getting like proper smashed, because it's 30 CS behind. Identum is just getting solo kills, and Kled's going to have a terrible time. But your Azir skills incredibly. Your Nunu is going to be just fine. Maximus on the Sivir is going to have a really big impact as well. But instead they go for these extended skirmishes, and this is what you want to do as the Saints here, right? You have the Rek'Sai, you have the Xerath, who can always provide a lot of support and isn't as reliant as the Azir is on his scaling. There we go again. And then you have Caitlyn Morgana, who love the idea of pre-15-minute river fights.
Well, the dragon is once again being contested this time. It's actually being taken away. I saw the clump of members of the Nighthawks. I thought that there was going to be more of a contest. There absolutely wasn't. Saints get that one for free. Turret plating has just dropped off, and we still haven't seen our first turret. I agree with everything you were saying there, Chronicler. However, having watched Saints games in the past and seen what they can do,
imagine that hitting.
Oh, it would have been sudden death, and it could still mean it actually for Azir, who flashed himself away from the Soul Shackles. The win condition that I was about to talk about for the Saints, it's called Identum, and look what he's doing in the top lane. If he continues to do this, there may be no stopping this man.
Because ask yourself, so you have Identum, he's really strong, but who are you really going to sense? I don't think that Nunu is going to do enough at this point in time to really match him. Identim's just going to kill Unsinkable, and then that's going to be at the end of that, as the red turret does get destroyed here. So nice pick up there from the Nighthawks. But that's the problem, like, you can't really match this split with Thresh, so instead you need to fight and look for team fights, but I don't think you really can at this point in time against the Saints.
Stun is going to land onto the Nunu. Meanwhile, the teleport is going to come in. Ace in the hole lands onto the Sivir, but she's burying up most of the damage coming through. The fight is happening on all of the fronts right now, and the charge already channeled by Skull. He dashes in, but in the end it's Aurelia who joined using that teleport, able to get the kill onto the Nunu. Sivir manages to take down the Caitlyn on the backside of all this, but it's a double kill for Identity, who's now 6-0 on the Aurelia, having taken down the Tahm Kench.
And that's what I was saying, like, exactly this. You want to fight as the Nighthawks here, but you really don't, because as soon as Identim, as we see there, uses teleport, even though his opposing laner doesn't have teleport available either, he just cleans up, and there's nothing you can do. As soon as Aurelia is in that fight, you just need to try and back off, but they just can't do that in time.
Alright, now Identim turns attention to the bot lane turret, and that is not going to be long for the world. The Trinity Force already completed on this Aurelia, along with the Tiamat and the Ninja's Tabbies. You look at the comparison to Kled, who's just got the Tiamat Phage and Ninja's Tabbies, along with a Doran's Blade, and that difference could not be more clear. A massive, massive outscaling right now for the Aurelia over the Kled.
And if you have a Thad Aurelia in his side lane, it's not looking great, but even the team fights here are made a lot harder, even with Fraser Fox getting taken out of the fight pretty much right from the get-go. There's just not enough damage coming out here, and the threats that he was able to put out, or rather the rest of his team was able to put out, is still so hard to deal with. Sivir, yes, she's great, yes, he has the Tahm Kench to back up as well, it's 2-0-1 as well, so great game here from Maximus, but it doesn't matter too much if the rest of your lanes aren't able to stay alive for long enough for it to really matter.
Alrighty, we're going to see a bit of a battle over the vision here in the river. The Herald has been started up and almost completed as Rek'Sai
not loving this fight.
To secure this one away from the chop of the... Oh, sorry, but that was a knock-up just as the Absolute Zero was coming down. It's going to be the flash away because of the nice devour coming in from Tahm Kench, but at the end of the day, Fraser Fox does pick up the kill onto the Nunu. Meanwhile, the battle continues in the bot lane between the two top laners. Identim actually going quite low in this fight, and Skull and Kled doing a decent bit of work, but here comes the damage through from the side of the Nighthawks. They're chasing down the Rek'Sai. He managed to secure the Herald, but will he get out with his life? One more Boomerang is... Boomerade?
Boomerade, yeah.
Boomerade Blang, that's what it's called. Nuts to those Boomerade Blangs. It's going to be the damage being put onto the top lane turret in exchange for Aurelia being able to free push for days in the bot lane.
Yeah, no one can really match her. Identim is just incredibly scary here. As we've seen him do before, he is just unmatchable. And now we see both Unsinkable and Redcap moving towards him. I don't even think that's enough. I don't think it matters too much. The Rift Herald has not been used as of yet. Maybe they want to chuck that down in the mid lane, as there is a red allo turret there. We do see that Fraser Fox is moving over there. There's no pressure. They see 3 people here on the top side who are just now backing, and I think that is going to be the Rift Herald. There we go. Shelly goes for the first charge. Might not be able to hit another one.
Yeah,
but it was about to expire, so...
Yeah, I suppose so. You got it. I don't know. Still a little while on it. Maybe could have got a second charge on it or a different lane if he'd used it to better effect, as that turret felt like it was pretty much gone. But at the end of the day, Fraser Fox still having a fairly effective game. He's got himself a 6 out of 10 kill participation, and now we've got ourselves a little bit of a pause as well. So we're going to be able to bring you up to speed with the action very, very shortly. But things looking good right now for the Saints.
And it feels like we're casting the same games that we saw from the Saints the last time, where it's Identim, once he gets fed, goes to a side lane and absolutely smashes people, and that's what we saw happen last time. That's what we see after this time. Sovinix, by the way, he goes kind of unmentioned. He's also playing Xerath, which, you know, Xerath doesn't necessarily love for the like big flashy plays for if you have something like, you know, a big juicy Syndra or an Echo, some of the more, or as though like some of the more explosive picks that we've seen thus far. but he's still having a great game here. And just in general, Cardiff Saints looking quite stronger in the first game against the Nighthawks.
You on Explosive, we might be about to get it because the Infernal Dragon is on the Rift and both teams do not want to let this one go uncontested. Let's see whether or not Fraser Fox is going to be on point. He's got himself a level advantage, but it is difficult against the consume of the Nunu. Now we're going to see Tom Kench stepping forward, clearing out a bit of a vision. Decent knockup coming in, but the damage immediately being turned around. The right of the Arcane channeled very, very swiftly by the Zeref, who managed to get the flash out of the Azir, and then the final bit of damage raining through from the Rex side, and once more the Nighthawks are forced away from an objective. It goes straight into the Cardiff Saints pocket. They've got themselves a Mountain and an Infernal. They want more. They get a knock up onto the Nunu. The Bear Trap is going to connect onto the Rex side, but not enough to stop the oncoming Saints. They are charging through. They are, and it's Identity who's leading the parade. He gets shut down in the end by the Kled, but not before he's taken the Nunu's life.
I don't know how Identity was even able to get a kill there. I felt like I was very over-aggressive, gets punished appropriately. But still going to get a turret here, still pick up the Drake previously, maybe even see a Baron player after they go for this. With the Mountain Dragon that they have, there is an opportunity to get a free kill in the opposing support as well. Opens up a lot of windows for you.
Flash, knock up, Zeref damage, dead Tahm Kench. That's what we just saw there. Yet another turret is falling for the Nighthawks. They are losing more and more of their base by the minute. They are now almost 5,000 gold behind. The Baron has spawned on the Rift, and if there are any more picks like we've been seeing already coming through for the Saints, they could easily turn their attention to the big purple worm.
And if they pick up that big purple worm, I think it's going to be over fairly rapidly. There is a considerable amount of wave clear available here for the Nighthawks, so it's not like it's going to be that easy. I'm going to assume that Fraser Fox did that on purpose, just as I did with the Rift Herald.
Definitely. What did he do?
Blast going himself back then in a less safe spot than he could have been.
That's strategy.
It's good behind.
It's good strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
If the other team don't know what that you're about to do, how can you prepare for it? That's the thing.
That's true. That's true. The unseen blade is the deadliest, as Zed always loves to say. We haven't seen it in a while. I mean, we've seen him prop up in like picks and or like bans here and there. We had a really good Belong Arena Clash game with Zed, who I think went like 22-3.
That was a pretty impressive performance by one of the real stars of the split so far. And we'll certainly... I think there's a very high chance we see more of that Zed player later on. But right now, we might not be seeing much more of the Unsinkable if Identium is able to step forward. That Titanic Hydra now completed. Fortunately, there are some items now coming in for the Kled. He's got himself the Black Cleaver. He's getting closer to Titanic himself.
And once he finishes that, it's going to be looking good here. But even then, we see the Clanfield being used at. I don't think you're still going to win this, even with that. But Identium seems to be of similar fashion in the end. Unsinkable does pick up the kill there. Too many turret shots being tanked, and they still want to go for an engage.
Oh, I really, really like that use of the wall, but it's just not enough for Azir because Caitlyn's able to secure one kill onto the Nunu. Now the damage coming through from the right of the Arcane, immediately forcing the side of Cardiff Saints completely away from the Baron area. And yet again, sorry, that was the Nighthawks being forced away. The Cardiff Saints now can look to turn their attention either towards pushing or clearing out the vision once more.
Making things a whole lot harder for their opponents. And as I said before, I feel like once the Baron gets picked up with how far ahead the Saints currently are and the composition that they have, it's going to be so easy for them to see. You have the Caitlyn, you have the poke coming out from the Zeref, and as soon as everyone is even remotely low, Identity just charges in, gets the resets, and he doesn't need to stop dying because like both his two deaths were, well, feels like kind of avoidable. First one diving in at a tier 2 turret, and then in bot lane just tanking like 3-4 tower shots before he backs off, which isn't great.
Well, that's I didn't know 7-2-1. Considering that he gave away that solo kill to Unsinkable just a moment ago, things are looking pretty good for Identium. But fair play to Unsinkable. He's got himself positive KDA, 3-2-1 on this Kled, still being fairly impactful with his charges. But it still feels like it is going to take an absolute miracle for the Nighthawks to get themselves back into this game.
Yeah, every single team card they're going to be at a deficit. Binding does not hit though.
Has a single binding hit yet?
I think we've seen a couple, yeah.
Oh, okay.
How's
is a pro, right?
Yeah, he is. He is. And I think he keeps hitting us, but that's the problem with directed cam, right? Like the moment that someone misses them, you know, we might not see it. The moment that someone hits them, we might see it. It's just how the Rector Cam works.
If a Morgana binding lands in the jungle and no one sees it, does it really hit?
If she has Battlefiend's Edge, she'll know. So yeah, I guess. So Shadimo gets taken down here. Identum showcasing his dominance once again. Doesn't even need Sovanix to use his ultimate there, which is quite nice. Just gets the solo pick up. And if this Baron goes down, I think the Nighthawks are going to be, I think, a really rough go here for the next couple of minutes.
Not really, and if it's a when, and the answer is in just a couple of seconds time. That's going to be a nice easy secure for the side of the Cardiff Saints. They lose no members in picking up that objective. The Nighthawks try to switch their attention onto the Mountain Dragon, but I feel like they've left it just a little bit too late, because already Fraser Fox is tunneling his way all the way down across the rift, down into the bottom half of the jungle, and this is going to be another free objective for the Saints.
And 2 Mountain Dragons in the Baron come on with a Caitlyn means that you're not going to have a lot of your base standing left at the end of this push. The wave play is good with Azir and the Sivir, but I don't think it's enough, and I think that we're going to see the Cardiff Saints make a really good push here rather soon. Identum can refrain from diving into Tourist Deep again.
The recalls are completed on the back of the Baron and the Dragon for the Cardiff Saints. Some items picked up. We've now got Caitlyn with all of that pushing damage, has got the Infinity Edge, the Rapid Fire Cannon, and also the Berserker Greaves. Some of the parts of what is likely also to be a Static Shiv coming through. Meanwhile, look at this Aurelia. I mean, on top of everything we've said already, there's a Giant's Belt and Warden's Mail there as well. That's going to be a Randuin's completed, and soon even the Sivir's not going to be able to hurt them.
And more importantly, I feel like the real avenues that you get through this is if you just keep Maximus and Shadimo alive. But the composition from their opponents with the Rexa and the Aurelia makes it so tough to do exactly that. So your consistent damage dealers are going to have a really tough go in actually dealing with their opposing team's threats. And then combined with the Baron buff, it just makes it so much harder for you to really get anything done here as the Sivir or as Shadimo on the Azir.
Massive amount of respect as well for the Vision game being played by the Cardiff Saints, constantly sweeping out, planting wards. The control wards have been regularly purchased by everyone in the team, but this could be one of the most crucial fights as Nunu steps forward, completely unable to catch onto the Rexa, and without any hard C, there is no way for the Nighthawks to really start up this fight. They might potentially look for a chance.
That's a hit binding.
It's going to be too little, too late. That's a big binding finally coming through from Halsey. He's hit one, and it matters in a big way because Aurelia dives in on the back of it. 2 kills coming in for Identum, and now the first inhibitor turret is going to fall. The inhibitor is not far behind it, and with the Baron still here, and with 4 members dead on the side of the Nighthawks, this is going to be the game for the Cardiff Saints. They step forward, they put both of their feet right on the face of the Nighthawks, crushing them after 26 minutes in game 1 of this best of 3 series.
And while it's not a very saintly thing to do, that is indeed what happened here at the end of this game. Greyheart, dominating performance there from the Saints, a little bit shaky here and there. I think we saw some individual misplays.
Mostly from Halsey.
Well, no, like, all jokes...
Oh, sorry, from the Nighthawks.
All jokes about bindings aside, I do feel like there's a couple of things that the Saints do that you shouldn't really be able to get away with. Identum giving up a huge shutdown, some lane assignments here and there, but overall, what we see here is a team that once they get ahead, know what to do with it, and just the split, I keep coming back to this, because the split pitch pressure is really good, but also the rest of the team plays around it accordingly, because that's something that might be difficult for a lot of other teams, but here we see that, say you have like a 1-4 split push going on, we see that like the Morgana, Caitlyn and Xerath work so well in just peeling or like staying away, throwing some poke, and then Identum, either he keeps pushing and no one can match him, or he comes in and he cleans up, and it's just always a one scenario here for the Cardiff Saints.
Alrighty, 1-0 to the team who are 3-0 in the standings coming in today. Of course, the Nighthawks, they themselves 2-0 before today's series, so they're going to have to bounce back in a big way in the next game if they want any chance. And we're going to be able to bring that game pretty quickly, and I feel something coming this way. Is it hands? Is it hands? No, it's just love I'm catching from Halsey. What a guy. What a top guy.
Gotta love people being active, you know, in the community, showcasing that love for League of Legends, because that's what we're doing as well.
Top community, absolutely. And part of that community is going to be in this game because Halsey is going to be bringing more pain, more missed bindings in a Champ Select coming to a cinema near you. And here it is. We are straight in onto the bans. Let's have a little look. Of course, the teams have swapped sides. The Saints, I'm assuming, are going to ban the Morgana to stop Halsey from being able to play it. Instead, they go for the Twisted Fate again.
So, Stan, So what how was he ever done to you? Like, did he
played
did he play Mundo? Did he take your last taco? Like, what happened?
He made one mistake. He came into Twitch chat.
Ooh, that is rough.
Man.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's a mistake I've made many, many, many times.
Haven't
This is
we
why
all?
I don't read Twitch chat when I'm casting.
You know, there's only a very, very few occasions where you're like happy that you see Twitch chat. Like, especially as a caster, like going back and reading Twitch chat is never good.
No, not once.
No, never. I've never had someone say, "Oh, this is such jolly. This is such a nice and enjoyable caster."
What,
And
were
they're
they
not,
English,
they're- well, I mean, the Dutch equivalent of that, right? I mean, I've casted English before.
Morgana ban!
There we go. No Mundo ban, but there is a Morgana ban. So
I
it
hope
means
he
we're
plays
both seeing
Lux.
that. And I'm loving the cannon here. Camille getting picked up. So I gotta imagine that's a top lane Camille. Like, that was a very split-second decision there. Cannon vs Camille matchup in the top lane. I'd love to see because it's again exciting. And the same goes for Lee Sin there as the Xin Zhao gets locked in as well. So we're getting plenty of action here in game number 2.
We certainly are, as the Cassiopeia is the final lock-in coming in from the Nighthawks. We get to see in the second phase of bans just what is going to be targeted. With the mid and the top laner already picked up, it feels like we're going to see some supports and ADCs taken away from Won Yuan and Halsey. I would personally target Halsey and tilt him as much as possible.
No comment. Orianna getting locked in there. Fiora in the top lane getting taken away. So that signals to me that they don't expect the cannon to actually go up in the top lane. Maybe expecting a AD support cannon. And don't laugh at me, I've seen support cannons. Of course, its success varies, but it is a thing.
That's a LeBlanc ban when there's an Orianna on the table, so that's a huge amount of respect going down to the potential of the AP carry from Won Yuan. Meanwhile, Lucian is going to get locked in. Immediately, the retort of Vayne, and it gets followed up with its support Braum.
And Vayne and Braum, I feel like the Vayne picking it into the Lucian is quite dicey. Can work out well if you get ahead, but it is quite the risk you're taking. The Braum pickup kind of alleviates that threat, right? Because if you, as a Vayne standing against a Lucian Braum and you're on an even footing, you should never be able to get out of that lane, especially not with the Xin Zhao there as an additional threat. I'm still kind of wondering about these Fiora bans in topside.
So I've just had a word in my ear in regards to what's happened there. Is that we've come on the back of some proxy picking. So actually, the bans that have come through there, it's just some speed bans, so that we could get through the draft quicker.
There we go. That explains a lot.
So that's very nice of the team.
So it wasn't
quickly
actually
for
a
us.
Morgana ban.
I mean, it
might have been.
It might have been. It might have been them just repeating themselves.
Yeah,
We don't know. We will never know. No.
Aww.
But what we do know is we did love that Morgana in the last game, and now we're going to get to see Braum in this game. Halsey's sure to be able to get all of those big knock-ups, or just throw them behind him, maybe. We'll see how it goes for him in this game as the Saints look to take the Series 2-0 against the Nighthawks here in Group 4.
Yeah, looking at what we saw previous game, I'm expecting similar win conditions. Bot lane going even for the Saints is good enough. All jokes about the Halsey and Won Yuan aside, feel like what they're doing very well is just playing around the pressure of the rest of their team. Fraser Fox can play a little bit over aggressive, but does work well on these aggressive mid laners. Sovanix again playing something scaling, so I'm liking the odds from the Saints here. That Kennen matchup can be quite impressive. Has opted to go for a phase rush as opposed to Klepto, which you can also sometimes see against the Camille. Don't think that's a bad call, as we see another invade here coming in from the Cardiff Saints.
Second game in a row, the Cardiff Saints are looking to make some kind of pick, and they are taking themselves a really interesting route through the top side of the jungle. You do not see many teams do this. This is almost never seen in solo queue, barely even seen in like a ranked flex where they're a 5-man team, and right now Xin Zhao is about to walk into a head full of trouble. Halsey is leading the charge, and he's going to knock out the Ghost Power. He's going to flash forward, immediately getting the response. Flash from Xin. That's going to be Lee Sin landing the Q, going in. The Ignite comes out from Halsey. It's going to be first blood picked up by the main man himself, the support of the Cardiff Saints, going big and not going home.
Yeah, Ghostpora almost ruining that Vader in the end. Reknab getting taken down, losing his flash as well, means that he's basically food for Fraser Fox if he ever spots him in the river, especially with the support from the rest of his team. First blood going over to Halsey. He's not the person you really wanted on. They did invest quite a lot, so if the Nighthawks are able to make something of this, it's actually like there's still a considerable threat on them, but if the Saints can get through out that window of time without getting punished, then they're in quite a good spot.
Chronicler, what do you mean you wouldn't want first gold on Halsey? I will not hear a bad word said about that man ever in any of our streams.
Except by you.
Except by me, all the time.
Okay, fair enough. Can't really
Pick
argue
your
with
own
that.
target.
Yeah, no. I'm not really one for targets.
Apart from me.
Apart from you, but even you, I quite like you. Like, why would I flame you?
That's
you
a
know?
rookie error right there.
I don't want to this stereotype that Dutch people are like really rude. I try to move away from that a little bit.
You're the one who keeps telling me.
Although it is true, if I'm quite honest, it's just I'm not, the stereotypical Dutchman. But you should know, and I'm warning you again, in case that anyone ever meet a Dutchman. They're very loud and tall, and somewhat friendly, but also quite rude. So you're warned.
I feel very, very warm. Somewhat friendly, but quite rude. That sounds like it could be like on my tombstone one day. But meanwhile, look at the damage being put down. This is Identum picking up the cannon, a champion so completely different to what he played in the last game, and already making the Camille's life a living hell.
Yeah, same goes for Shady Mo, who's not having a great time, does for Orianna. Of course, quite strong early game. Both of these mid lanes have the barrier available. And Identum in the top lane already putting a lot of pressure on Unsinkable. And I like the confidence from the Nighthawk to again pick a skill matchup into Identum. But I do also feel like it is really a big risk that you're taking. The Galio pick I quite like, because I feel like it fits well with what you're trying to do. Galio Camille is a combination that traditionally has been very strong, because the combination of Hextech Ultimatum and Hero's Entrance is just a nuisance to deal with. But based on the last game, the Nighthawks, I don't feel like they were really able to out-skirmish the Saints, like starting from minute 1. So I quite would have liked them to see if you go for something that can still lane, but not is so reliant on skirmishes and team fighting, which I feel like this comes somewhat is. The Cassiopeia helps, but they need to be careful about their lane matchups as well.
Yeah, I completely agree for you, and it feels like Nighthawks haven't adapted enough from the last game. Meanwhile, we do see a bit of damage being put down onto Identum as Camille stepping forward, trying to land the stun, and instead herself taking nearly 3 stacks from the cannon. Some would call it 2. And actually, the stun isn't going to drop down from Identum this time, but he continues to harass. He continues to try his best to starve the Camille of CS, but she's doing a pretty decent job under a turret.
And it's a Vayne into a Lucian lane. Like, when you're going even, you're pretty much celebrating, because that's not what you expect going into that. No real CS disadvantage either. A couple of CS missed here and there, but that's completely fine. Unsinkable now underneath his turrets, and we see FraserFox looking here for another kill.
He certainly is waiting in the wings, having already gained himself an assist off the first blood onto the Xin Zhao, who himself has just had to farm up, but now he decides he wants to go in. Does not decide to follow up the Audacious Charge because he doesn't want to go underneath
Forces
Orianna's
the barrier.
turret. But yeah, exactly. Well,
Ooh,
that's an awkward trade. So what happens there is the flash away from Orianna, respecting the Xin Zhao coming in, but then trading the damage back with the command attack, and all of a sudden it's actually going to be Shady who actually has to throw down the barrier in response. Meanwhile, Camille looking for some damage herself. Hasn't got the Hextech Ultimatum yet, so not able to jump straight on top of this cannon, but look at the damage being put down. The flash, the kill, Unsinkable 28 goes massive in the top lane. Meanwhile, Galio is going to just set himself down, and again, the push continues. Lucian and Galio doing their best to push Braum and Vayne into their turret over and over again, trying to deny the CS, but again, much like we were just saying about Unsinkable in the top lane, Vayne's not missing any CS.
Indeed, and you're going to be quite happy with that. I feel like Cannon is in similar problem, although he does get stunned there, but teleport will mean that there won't be a lot missed there by Unsinkable. But the problem with Cannon is that he's a little bit more well-rounded than, say, a Lucian, who does well in the early to mid game, but then late game really falls off unless he's able to pick up a couple of kills, especially compared to a Vayne, as we see FraserFox move down there. The Cannon with the Slicing Maelstrom, of course, has a lot of team fight viability, and thus far it's 1 against 1, and there is a sizable gold lead, and here's the engagement.
Lee Sin coming on down, he's looking to land a Q onto the Vayne possibly, but instead it's going to, sorry, not onto the Vayne, onto the Lucian. Halsey picking up a second kill of the game. Gotta feed your carry. 1U and stop stealing kills from Halsey. The Hextech Ultimatum is issued. Halsey going very, very low. Has got a gold bounty on his head, so dashes himself away, giving up his Vayne to the Camille, who in turn is going to drop down to the Lee Sin, but it was so very, very close. Halsey sticking around to give a potential safeguard, dashing in and out of range of the Lee Sin. In the end, a 3-for-1, I believe it was, in favour of the Cardiff Saints.
And while I like that teleport from Unsinkable, it also means that he's committed so much to making that play towards bot lane. Picks up a kill for the effort, but Red Knup just makes it in the top lane, plates were almost picked up, I think. I don't think he got one in the end, but he will before Unsinkable's back. But a look at the CS lead that Identim is now able to pick up here is quite big, and that really negates the kills that Unsinkable was able to find.
Alright, Lee Sin doing a pretty decent job of dueling the red buff there. Not going to go Broken Shard today. Fraser Fox had a really nice performance on the Rek'Sai in the last game. A champion who we know through the last couple of patches has gained a little bit of power, but looking even stronger on this Lee Sin. So clean with the 1-0-3 performance so far.
And if he keeps that up, it's looking good for the Cardiff Saints. Identim traditionally is kind of their, their measurement of how well the game is going, but this time we see a sizable TS advantage for Sovanix in the mid lane, led Orianna, who skills just as nicely as the Cassiopeia does. And of course the bot lane is really the story, and Howlsey being 0-2, or 2-0-2 rather, is quite good to start with, but more importantly is the fact that, again, we keep talking about 1u1 not behind on the Vayne, even in CS, picked up a kill as well, and once she picks up the Blade of the Rune King, I feel like all bets are off in terms of how the bot lane matchup is going to go.
Yeah, and you've got to feel, as we jump ourselves back in after a small pause, that if this game is continuing on its current trajectory, that things will be bad for the Nighthawks, but at the least they are trying to make some plays. We've already seen 2 kills picked up for the Camille, a nice teleport down after the solo kill onto the
Glacial
Kennen.
Fissure, that doesn't really go anywhere.
Hey, that was a really good zoning Glacial Fissure, and he throwed out the Debengu afterwards, so you're alright.
Yeah, at that point.
Yeah, so as I was just saying, Camille teleporting down, picking up a kill on the back of having got the solo kill, has become, pretty strong in the early games. Hasn't got the Tiamat completed just yet, so the push into a turret continuing over and over again as Kennen is able to harass her, and he's getting closer and closer to that Proto Belt.
And I'm also looking towards the next teleport that we're going to see come out of Identim, because opposed to what he's usually playing with Kennen, you really want to be looking for those teleport flanks, as the Slicing Maelstrom coming from the back can just absolutely decimate teamfights. If you don't find those, you're just not nearly as threatening as a split pushing champion as he was last time on the Iradia, but if you leave him alone with a turret for just a second, it's going to go very bad. What might also go very bad is this engagement here for the States.
It's going to be the flash, it's going to be the taunt landing. Xin Zhao, audacious dash forward, but Vayne with the flash getting herself to safety, but only for so long. Maximus with the culling, able to pick her up with the last couple of volts, firing through the heart of the Vayne, and now we're going to see Halsey left to defend the turret once again, but that's okay because it gets our main man some CS.
And that's all you really want in the end. If you have enough creepies, then you can do whatever you feel like. Hook shots away there. Nice play by Unsinkable. Not really used by the Saints, and they might be able to pick up a plate for that effort, but the Cloud Dragon might be available then for Redknapp. Without Illusion though, and with Cassio just back in, without support from Shady Mo and Maximus, might not be the greatest idea to try and get solo that. And they don't, as Unsinkable decides to move back towards the turret, which does not go very well.
The Slicing Maelstrom absolutely ripping through the Camille. She hasn't got a bounty on her head despite the kills. The flash forward is not quite perfect for Fraser Fox, but he throws out that mastery, just saying, you know what, I'm going to be able to pick up the kill whenever I want. But he gives up his own life in return, because in the end, that final shuriken that was thrown out by Kennen just wasn't enough, and so Lee Sin had to take the cue. His mind was telling him no, his body was telling him yes. Well, now his body's back at the fountain.
And this is what kind of this is peak Cardiff Saints for me, where like the idea is good and then the execution is also good but also not simultaneously. You just look at it and you're like, there's so much to unpack there, where you know that what they're doing is right and they execute the dive, but then you have like the flash and then the follow-up, and you're like, wait, I don't think that was how they guys wanted it to go, because they can look so clean when they do execute these plays. Now there is a 30 CS lead for Identim towards Unsinkable, so he's still feeling rather comfortable there in that lane. And then, in the end, Fraser Fox still picks up a kill, so that's quite nice.
Looking at the opposition jungler as well, we're seeing, I believe is it the substitute jungler coming in for the side of the Nighthawks? No, it is the same guy who played the Nunu in the last game. Yeah. He obviously gave away that first blood, had a bit of a rough time early on, having burned his flash and playing a little bit safer, but he's kept himself really far ahead of Lee Sin in CS terms. He's been able to continuously take away his camps, he's scaling up. Now unfortunately for Xin Zhao, that's not exactly what you want this early game champion to be doing.
No, because as Xin Zhao, especially the Hail Blades variants, you're really looking for those early impact kills. You're not finding those And you might be finding a kill here.
You want impactful? Well, here comes the Lee Sin once again, ganking the bot lane, once again passing a kill straight over to one viewer who takes down the Galio this time, who got caught behind enemy lines. The slicing Maelstrom thrown down by the Kennen, but this is a tight old 1v1. It's going to be so very close. The flash, the kill for Unsinkable, and he even had the backup of Xin Zhao, but he just didn't need him.
Yeah, doesn't even need him, and Identim is not having a great game, but that doesn't really matter when your bot lane is as far ahead as we see currently coming out here from the Saints. Also, Fraser Fox having an amazing impact this game, is on his way to solo that Cloud Dragon, and in the end it's still a 2.5k gold lead here for the Saints, and it's not looking too clean with a couple of kills being given over here and there, but in the end, Unsinkable picking up the kills is nice, but a 4-2 Camille with only 55 CS at this point in time, I don't think it's going to be enough. And look at the almost perfect CS that we see coming out here from Sophoenix.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's not clean, it's anything but clean, even though there is a 2,000 gold lead for the Saints, and even though definitely they are in the driving seat, the Nighthawks are being given opportunity after opportunity because of slight misplays coming in. The Lucian, okay, he's only got himself a Bilgewater Cutlass, which is the same as what the Vayne has at this point, but at the same time, he's keeping in there, he's putting damage down, and he's not dying. Up in the top lane, Camille is showing to be a bit of a force, and if Unsinkable can do anything like what Identim did in the last game, it could mean disaster for the Saints.
It could indeed, and also, like, you can't disregard what Identim is here currently doing repeatedly. Both the impact from the ganks and the Hextech Ultimatum, meaning that if you go for a trade with a Camille, it's not going to go well, but that flash in the end is actually enough, surprisingly, because I feel like Reknop might have just barely been able to make it. Had he gone for the Red Smite right from the get-go, that might have been the way, but I don't think he was in range ever there.
I would argue, as a bit of a Xin Zhao player, that he was definitely in range of the Audacious Charge at times there, but I think he was trying to leave that one for the Camille to continue the feed, and instead gave away what would have been a free kill.
And that's kind of unfortunate here, as the Nighthawks need every single bit of gold that they can get, which is nice when you pick up a free control with there. The pace of the game, though, still feels similar to what we saw earlier, where the Cardiff Saints are able to initially, you know, take it a little bit slow, not find too many edges, but then as the game progresses, the Nighthawks just drop the ball more and more often, and the Saints get a bigger and bigger lead. This time, though, there's no big threat of Identim, who is about to get, if he's not careful, hookshot there, but instead just go for the sweeper and then says, nah, I'm going to back off.
Camille without Hextech Ultimatum available, not keen to go in on the Kennen on that particular instance. You know, having that slicing Maelstrom available, he's certainly going to be able to put out a lot of damage, even though he hasn't picked up any kills for himself just yet. Meanwhile, we do see Xin Zhao looking for a potential ganker in the bot lane. He might be met by Lee Sin, as Orianna continuing this harassment. 36 CS is the advantage over Cassiopeia at this point. Also, with that completed lost chapter, she's able to sustain herself pretty much forever and a day.
Yeah, not too much you can do about it, and those shockwaves are going to become more and more scary. If Identim jumps into a team and they find a shockwave combined with the slicing Maelstrom, it can only go all right. Reknop looking for a play here, but I think that in a 3v3, we still got to give the edge to the Nighthawks depending on the execution here. Can they get the taunt? Are they actually going to go for it? It looks for now that it's not actually going to be happening, but now we see the move in, and the engagement might here be after all, and the taunt is really nicely timed there.
It's followed by a knock-up from the Galio. Meanwhile, we've got dueling jungler Xin Zhao throwing down the Crescent Sweep, but it's not enough to stop the damage coming out of Fraser Fox. He picks up his third kill of the game. Meanwhile, Halsey lands a key knock onto Lucian, but there's not going to be any completion of the passive from the Braum. Meanwhile, it's going to be Lucian and Galio able to get themselves to safety. Their jungler not so lucky, though.
And that was a little bit of a mistiming that I feel like from Halsey. Flashes in, but still waits for a second there with the Glacial Fissure, meaning that Harsha is able to hit the taunts, and that makes it a little bit more awkward. Fraser Fox, fortunately, can duel Reknop there in the 1v1, meaning that they in the end still get the lead there. But I feel like they could have been a little bit clean in terms of how it was executed there in the end, which is again kind of the story with the Cardiff Saints. But with the gold lead that they currently have up to 4k now, they're still looking quite peachier in this game.
Yeah, but on the same side, you can say for the Nighthawks that apart from what went wrong for the Xin Zhao against the Lee Sin, they did pretty nicely in that trade. If Lee Sin hadn't been present for the counter gag, it could have been a much different story. Just the same could be said for Camille. If she hadn't walked into 3 members of the Saints about to start the Herald, she probably wouldn't have died.
But she did.
She did.
And she did. And yeah, on the note, Rift Tower gets picked up here, means another turret. First turret bot, of course, already fallen quite a while ago in the top lane. Unsinkable trying his best here on these carries, but even with the kills, he's not able to really be in the places he needs to be at the moments that you'd like him to. As we see now a 45 CS lead here in the mid lane that just keeps slowly but steadily growing. Sovanix wants to show his dominance over Shady Mao with just in a farm matchup showing I can farm much better than you, and also picking up a kill here and there when Fraser Fox has the time to come by for a friendly visit.
Command Shockwave, command Lee Sin to join the fight as well. He pops the Herald down. It's not quite going to get spawned in time though. In comes Galio, in comes Jin Zhao, and that is going to be Fraser Fox saying, "That's it guys, I'm outie."
Yeah, he's had enough. Says, yeah, my Rift Tower got cancelled. I don't want to play this game anymore. Happens to me quite often in solo queue, to be honest.
So this is now a 4 versus 5. This is the Nighthawks' opportunity. Fraser Fox is gone from the game, never to come back again. There's no... he's back.
He's back.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a solo queue game after all, which is nice. That gives me
this
a little
isn't my Mundo from earlier. No. So that is going to be, of course, Fraser Fox rejoining ASAP, having slightly messed up their Herald. Doesn't really matter, though, because Kennen is able to pick up that turret just as quickly as he would like, despite the fact that he has died twice, despite the fact Camille has 4 kills, that Kennen has still got a 30 CS advantage. Identum still doing absolute work for his team. Meanwhile, Braum dashing over to the Vayne, trying to keep herself alive. The taunt is not going to land. The taunt is going to land on the Vayne, but she immediately uses the final hour, uses that tumble, steps forward, trying to get the damage onto the Galio, who has to flash away. Meanwhile, Lucian using his dash, trying to get out of trouble, but here comes Lee Sin, here comes Orianna, here comes a kill for Fraser Fox. Lee Sin is absolutely on a rampage right now. Orianna managed to take down the Jin Zhao. The lockdown of Lee Sin is completed, and a double kill is secured. Meanwhile, the Hextech ultimatum issued by Camille, but it's too little too late. The Shockwave pulls her back in to the Orianna, who gets a triple kill, and that's going to be Savonix doing the absolute business here in the bottom lane. He's looking for a potential quadra as well, because that's going to be Fraser Fox taken down by the Cassiopeia. Now dashing forward, it's going to be Kennen landing the stun onto the Cassiopeia, throwing down the slicing Maelstrom. That's going to be enough. Identum picks up that kill, finally his first of the game. Meanwhile, Orianna and Vayne making mincemeat of a turret.
Yeah, 3-3 here for Sovanix, and after so much action, the only key you can wonder is what can the Saints pick up once they start grouping. Again, Fraser Fox keeps disconnecting and reconnecting. I think that he thinks it's some magical portal into a game where he does have a perfect KDL, though. Let's be honest, having an admirable performance thus far here on the Lee Sin.
I have been informed that he was told by his team that he would get magical superpowers if he pressed Alt F4 multiple times.
Well, if that magical superpower is disconnected from the game, it's working great. All jokes aside, great.
It's a power I wish I could have sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes. When I've got that Mundo in top lane, yeah.
But you're not toxic, so you say, I'm going to play out this game regardless, because don't want to inconvenience all the other people.
That's me. Good guy Greyheart.
It's very friendly of you. I mean, it's, you know...
Sounds like something a Dutch guy wouldn't do, according to you.
I don't think we're all toxic. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
Just rude.
Yeah, but...
So you'd flame, but you wouldn't DC. In fact, you'd stick around for longer just to sort of harass people.
Yeah, good question.
Cloud Drake goes over to the Cardiff Saints. That's their second. They have now officially got their speedy boots on. Something that Shady Mo never will have, because Cassiopeia can't have boots.
Yeah, and you'd quite like to see those double Cloud Dragons if that's the occasion, but unfortunately, you're not the one getting them, and the Cardiff Saints are in commanding lead here in this game, almost 7k gold up here. Nighthawks having a rough go, and if you look at avenues here back into this game, it's got to be something like either find a team fight where you can get the combination of your hero's entrance and your Hextech ultimatum off about the rest of the team showing up, or, more importantly, get to a point where Shady Mo is able to hit some really big plays, and it looks like 1v1 just wants to go in 1v2.
Galio comes in to help out his ADC. It's going to be the dashing around from the final hour of Vayne, but not in time to stop the kill coming over. The teleport from Identum is good enough to secure a kill, but now it's going to be the 2 versus 1 because Camille is joining the fight with the flash, the Hextech ultimatum. It's going to be Kennen locked in. 3 members needed to take down ultimatum. Meanwhile, the push continues in the mid lane, and it's going to be Savonix who gets Cassiopeia, who was left completely unattended, and now the mid lane in a turret will probably be the next victim of the Cardiff Saints' continuous push.
And that's a 2-for-1 trade for the Nighthawk, which is nice, but they also lose that inner turret, which is not nearly as nice as the gold lead continues to grow here for the Saints. Last time we saw this, what happened was we got a Baron, and then the game was just pretty much over. Expecting a similar tempo here, I want to say. I feel like the Nighthawks are running to the exact same issue that last time, although this time they have a team composition which just doesn't skill nearly as well, in my opinion, and the Cardiff Saints, like, team fighting a mirror at this Baron Pit is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Another Q is going to land from Lee Sin, and yeah, again, he has Lee Syndrome, and he goes in. He's going to find himself taunted up, but that's really not going to matter. Savonix is now 5-0-3 on this Orianna, a really clean series from the mid laner of Saints.
And Halsey and Sonix both have a perfect KDA in this game as well, which is quite impressive, as we see the Red Hampshire coming down, the Baron getting started, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Halsey doing a good job of zoning here, just need to be mindful of Razgraf coming in and trying to go for a steal, but it doesn't matter if the entire enemy team's dead.
Big shockwave coming through from Savonix. It's going to be Lee Sin who gets 2 kills on the back of it. He dashes himself straight into the Baron Pit. This Baron is still very, very low, and it's going to be the dashboard from Lucien attempting to steal, not quite able to get it.
Close.
Lee Sin is able to secure that one, managed to get the kill to Lucien on the back. Kennen takes down the Cassiopeia. The ace is all but completed, with Galio only just having respawn. Baron goes over to every single member of the Saints, but it could have been a very different story if that double tap had connected at the right time.
I feel like Maximus was so close to actually stealing the Baron there, which would have completely turned this game on its head. Now, I think that Saints are just going to push and get an inhibitor, and it's not going to be nearly as interesting as if the Nighthawks would have picked up a kill there.
Well, yeah, I was rooting for them a little bit, I have to say, but in the end, it was secured by the Saints. Now they take themselves down the first inhibitor turret. Savonix already pushing this inner turret in the top lane, able to take that one down. A power play already completed on the back of this Baron buff. We're now looking at a 12,000 gold lead, and surely that's insurmountable.
You'd expect so. More importantly, it's the composition that they're standing opposing, right? The Nighthawks, the Xin Zhao, the Lucian, the Galio, and honestly, Camille as well. Like, Camille just wants to go in and make a big play. I think that even if you go in here and you manage to kill one Yuan, which is then, I guess, your preferred target, because Fraser Fox you're never getting near, and the same goes for Idancem with the stopwatch not finished. You're just not going to chew through them, and even if you do, then the rest of the team is so incredibly scary coming out from the Saints. There's so much threats here, there's so much damage. There isn't a real tank besides Halsey, but it doesn't matter that you don't have a tank if the opposing team is just going to get absolutely annihilated in a matter of seconds if they try to get to you.
Cassiopeia just about managing to take her blue buff. Let's see whether... Oh, nice dash coming out of Lucian, meaning that can then not going to knock him into any kind of turret, but instead getting him more to safety. There is another dragon just about to spawn in just under a minute's time, but I don't think we're going to see any attention paid to that, as we are going to see the command protect put on top of the Lee Sin. He dashes forward. He does get knocked up by the Galio. It's going to be Lucian with the double tap, looking to get the kill. Cassiopeia takes it away from the ADC. However, Maximus must be a little bit irritated about that one, but not quite as irritated with this Xin Zhao, who almost loses Guardian's Angel just for a couple of hits coming in from the Orianna. The step forward now from the Saints as they look to take this inhibitor. Now Camille stepping in, trying to help out her team, but there is just no stopping this Saints lineup. They already have got themselves one inhibitor, and they've got their eyes on more. They look towards the top lane.
There was a bot delivery system gone wrong there. Fraser Fox looking for the shockwave together with Sovanix, I assume, with how deep he was diving down the flash afterwards as well. Not really finding, though, mid lane inhibitor does get taken down because there's so much pressure available here for the Cardiff Saints. And Nighthawks need to be careful. If they take one disadvantageous fight here, it's just a straight highway right to the Nexus here for the Cardiff Saints.
And that's a Mountain Dragon as well, so the remaining structures will just evaporate if the side of Saints get this Dragon, which at this point seems very, very likely. They might not even need to. Look at the damage being put down onto the Xin Zhao. He keeps almost losing that Guardian's Angel that he only just picked up. It's only his second item. The Lee Sin has got a is that a Yumu's or a Duskblade? He's already got a Black Cleaver on top of the Warrior enchant. He's looking towards the Guardian's Angel as well. The Mountain Dragon secured. The Proto Belt stops the recalls. Halsey tags Camille, but that's the end of that fight.
And that Infernal being picked up is quite enough.
Infernal, sorry, not Mountain.
As if they didn't need more damage, right? As if they're wanting for that. And we see another push being forward here. There's so many potential coming out, as you say. I feel like at this point in time, the gold lead is just insurmountable. We are almost 11k behind here as the Norfolk Nighthawks. And at this point, the Saints really, really need to walk into a 5-man taunt with a Petrifying Gaze follow-up here to lose a fight, into a Hextech Ultimatum, into Maximus. You can just throw a culling on top of all of them. Like, the situations, they're there but they're going to be hard to find.
Hextech Ultimatum has been issued, but here comes the Slicing Maelstrom in retort. The culling that you wanted is not quite able to pick up the kills. Zonya is used perfectly by the Kenny, keeping himself alive, while Orianna picks up the kill on Camille. Braum is there. He started the game with a kill. He's going to end it with a kill as well, because Orianna gets a double on the other side. Meanwhile, Lucian trying to dash to safety, not able to get away from the silver bolts of one Ewan. That's 4 members down. That's only Cassiopeia alive to try and stop this inevitable destruction of the base. The Nighthawks will drop down. They lose the first game that they have lost in this season of Belong Arena Clash, but the Saints remain undefeated. They are now 4-0 as they get themselves closer and closer towards the playoffs.
And that's going to be a really similar game to the first one, with some mistakes here and there coming out from the Cardiff Saints, but in the end they still outclassed the Nighthawks in terms of overall map movement. And I feel like the jungle matchup is also where we see some really big disparities. Mid lane matchup as well, but Sophoenix plays the top of mid lane, where he just shows like, I'm still better than you, but just show it by being like 80 CS up and having near perfect CS, while also having an impact once those team fights start. But beforehand, he's a little bit more of a chilled up player who just tries to get through lane. If you look at top lane, Identum, yes, he didn't do what we saw him do last game, but in the end his cannon still did what it needed to.
Yep, it's true. This was a series that promised a lot in terms of the potential closeness. Yeah. Two teams that had been unbeaten so far in Arena Clash, but at the end of the day, it really was a fantastic showing coming through from the Cardiff Saints as they continue their push towards trying to get towards the grand final.
Indeed, and looking back on the night, I feel like the first series was really like very action-packed and different games as well, with both teams looking like they had a shot to take it. In the end, you were right, and I was wrong, unfortunately, with the Arrows taking it in a reverse sweep. But this game, though, basically 2 times exactly the same game in terms of pacing. A little bit of mistakes here and there, but early leads built up for the junglers, early leads built up for the mid lane, and then just the Saints snowball it from there.
Alright, I'm going to ask you, I should have done it on the first game, and I didn't, so I apologise, especially to the Arrows, who didn't, get potentially their MVP, but I'm going to give one out, well, I'm going to ask you to give one out for this series. Obviously you could give it to someone from the Nighthawks if you wanted, but it feels like it's probably going the Saints' way.
I'm having a tough time choosing between Fraser Fox and on one hand, and Halsey on the other, and I think I'm going to go with Halsey.
Halsey.
Specifically because I feel like the Braum performance was really good, some mechanical mistakes here and there, and in the end being able to drag your Vayne into a disadvantageous matchup and get her out alive is quite a great job, and make it so much easier for them to push there.
Halsey, we would have liked to give you the MVP, but unfortunately, due to the Morgana bindings, I am going to override my co-caster on this one and give it straight over to basically anybody else. So
Fraser Fox?
Fraser Fox can have it. He didn't die over and over again dashing in with Lee Syndrome.
No, he did really good. I thought he had a memorable game there in the second one. Again, I feel like the Saints they know they're not matched against players that can punish them as appropriately as a lot of the higher ranked teams will. So they just play for a little bit more fun than they usually would. Limit testing.
It's been a really, really terrific couple of series to see. Congratulations to the Nottingham Arrows and the Cardiff Saints, who picked up a win in their attempted conquest of the Belong Arena Clash this season. Commiserations to the Bristol Brawlers and to the Norfolk Nighthawks, who unfortunately fell just short. Thank you so much for joining us once more for the Belong Arena Clash here on Thursday nights for League of Legends. We have many other games being played across the week, so check out some quality Tekken, FIFA and Overwatch on other nights. All it remains for me to say, though, is that I have been Stanley Greyheart Barker, and this has been Marip's Chronicle Musen. It's been our pleasure to bring you the League of Legends Clash. Good night.
I was a big traditional sports player when I was younger. I have an injury, which means I can't do this anymore, and it sort of fulfills that team aspect for me, and I really enjoy gaming from a young age anyway. My name's James Cowling. I play Call of Duty Strugglers, and my favourite game is League of Legends.
I've always played competitive games. I started at Call of Duty and went through to play CSGO. And when I started playing League, I just wanted to get better and needed to test myself. My name is Jermaine. My tribe is Bristol Smugglers. My favourite game at the moment is League of Legends. For the most part, currently I'm just coaching, but when I do play and sub in, I play jungle.
As a sort of big team sports player, I really enjoy being part of the competition of the Clash. I'm really looking forward to representing Bristol Smugglers and helping the team out get some victories as well.
Been going, I think, for 4 seasons in a row now, and I've enjoyed it every time. Whether one of the seasons I didn't directly play, I was just there just to enjoy the atmosphere and just watch things happen. It's really cool. It's quite nice to kind of grow friendships between the different tribes and even rivalries.
You come down, you'll meet some like really nice people who are easy to talk to, similar sort of interests, which you don't always get to meet up to at sort of school and your standard activities. So just come down and enjoy yourself. It's the most important thing.